Right, okay, let's try that again. Let's try that again, guys, and see how we go with this. I'm going to be trying a couple of things here to see if this works. I'll just give it a minute or two till you guys log on, and then we'll see what happens. I'm going to have to go super gorilla style. So just say hello if you're on, guys, and just let me know if you can hear me or not. I'm not doing anything in particularly special. I'm just talking away, but just put something on the message if you can hear me, okay? Hello? Anybody there? Hiya, John. Good to see you back on this one. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now okay? Hi, Dave. How's it going, mate? You alright? Oh, just type in the chat if you can hear me okay? I'm going to try and mix this up a bit and make this work if I've got audio now. Can you hear me at all? Hello? Is anybody there? Say hi if you can hear me. There is a lag. I am trying to deal with it, but see what happens. How's it going, Lambros? You alright? Dave, John, any of you there? You don't hear me burp then? Don't know if any of you can hear me. Don't think you can, since nothing's being typed. Just give me a shout if you can hear me, alright? Just trying a couple of things. Hiya, Pete, how's it going? Anybody? I am reading the chat. If any of you want to type and type if you can hear me. Hello? You can hear me, yeah? Thanks. No one's typing anything in the chat, guys. I'm glad somebody said. Right, okay. No, mate. I don't know what's going on, man. I honestly don't know what's going on. The way it streams is just damn well funny. I can see who's logging on, but I can't see any chat for some reason. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the stream up on this page, and that way I should be able to view it as though I'm watching it myself. So that's what I'm going to do, and that way I should be able to see your messages on here. Should say I'm live streaming. Here we go. Right. Let's go, 30 comments. I think this is the live one. So that's what I'm going to do. And that way I should be able to see your messages on here. Should say I'm live streaming. Oh, right, there we go. You should be able to see yourselves now, people, by the way. We're kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit more than normal there. I don't know why, but it's not coming up on my phone. As long as it's filming, that's all I'm bothered about. I'm going to kill the audio on here. I'll tell you what, it's the day for... it's definitely the day for technical problems. I've had so many problems trying to get everything set up for this evening, and I'm a man short of time as it is. So, but yeah, I'm going to make this work anyway, so... Right, at the end of the day, as long as you can see the screen, as long as you can see the next, everything you need to see is there. You don't need to see my ugly mush. Inception as fuck, yeah, totally, Pete. Totally. Right. So, there we go. I can read your chat now, guys. I'm just going back over. Right, I'm not going to bother flipping it round to see me. What I've done, I think it's something to do with the internet. Just let you know, Virgin Media, I would never recommend. They are a serious pain in the arse. And in all honesty, I have nothing but trouble. It's supposed to be super fast, but this time of night, every single night, they do little bullshit things that throttle your performance. And I swear to God, it does strange things when you're streaming or when you're watching movies and things like that. And I think the reason the audio is dropping out, anytime I do anything or I change anything on my phone, like flipping the camera, it's momentarily losing it and something's going on. So I'm just going to stay this way round. I'm going to try and follow the chat. Now, Dave, I've tried swiping out. I can see who's watching. I've got a list of the people who's watching. What I can't see is any of your chat, annoyingly. And yet I could a few minutes ago. So what I've done is I've connected my phone to my 4G because I've got loads and loads and loads of data. And I'm now viewing my own stream on the laptop through my Wi-Fi. And at least that way, that shouldn't affect anything. Right, okay. So in theory, I'm going to try and just flip this round now. Because I don't particularly need to... I'm not going to flip the camera, but I should be able to just flip the actual phone round and get myself in shot. There's a bit of a lag, but it should come up in just a minute anyway. Thanks for joining the stream, guys. I'll see if I'm in shot in a minute now. Probably pointing at my chest at the moment, but here we go. Let's dip this a bit more. That should do the trick. Right, it's a bit surreal because I'm seeing like a delayed image of myself on here, but that should more or less do it anyway. So, right, now I am going to talk to you all, and at the same time I'm going to try and read your comments side by side. So, just shout out on anything. Hello again for the second time. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. I've not bothered flipping the camera on my phone, I've just flipped my phone round. I hope you've all had a good Christmas and New Year. It's been a long time since I've done anything on the Spectrum Next, as you know. I did loads of videos last year. I did some at the end of 2018, all the way through early 2019, and then I had to take a big break. I've done a couple of streams since for various things. Yes, hi Mike, how's it going, mate? I can see you, there's a slight delay. Everything should be fine. Okay, I'm reading, yeah, I'll follow you. I'll carry on talking to everyone. Right, sorry guys, I've got a million messages going on. People have been waiting ages to see something new on the Next, so everybody's now messaging me at once, and that's the only bad thing. When I've got my my main page up on here, I start to see everybody else's chat and conversation and things like that. Right, yeah, the Spectrum Next, as you're all probably aware by now, the Spectrum Next, it is on our. It's the eve of it arriving. It's on our doorsteps basically. I've had quiet word from the team. Everything's on track. I know they've been communicating that in the releases and the Kickstarter updates and the Facebook pages and things like that. But yeah, from what I understand, there's no reason to think now there should be any more delays. It looks like that. I think that they're just being kind of quietly optimistic now. Everything's now being fully assembled. The first few are due to ship out. And the fully cased Nexts are, you know, they're due to arrive now. They are imminent. It's no longer a kind of pipe dream or an as and when or stuck in production hell. They are coming. And from what I understand, it's highly likely that they're going to start dropping on people's doorsteps very end of February, early March. So if you've ordered one on the Kickstarter, I would imagine they're going to be arriving very soon. So make a space under your TV for them. The reason I'm doing this stream is there's a lot of new stuff to cover for sure. But I've been offline for a long time. After Revival last year, I had to go. I've renovated my entire house. It's the first time I've really taken off to do home stuff in years. The event stuff has taken over. My little side projects, I'll be honest, I'll get a bit caught up in them, and it was time to do some family stuff. So I've been off for like 6 months because I was doing my house up. We had a couple of bereavements, you know. One of them a lot of you will have seen online. One of our good friends on the scene, Stu Williams, unfortunately died of prostate cancer back in September, and it was a big loss to us all. But then I also lost 2 family members before Christmas, so I've had a lot to deal with in that respect. So all of this had to kind of go on the sideline while everything was kind of being done. I mean, personal life aside, the next was still rolling on. The development team was still working on the manual. They were still working on the firmware. They were still working on the games. I needed to be working on my own game, but I knew it would keep. There's plenty of other things going on. And I knew that round about now I would get online and I would start to basically come back out there now. The next revival is due. Shameless plug. The Revival 2020 Part 1 is on the 7th and 8th of March. And it's going to be back here in the Midlands. Quite a few of the next developers are going to be there. And it may very well possibly be the first kind of public showing of the full production next, not just a case next. Jim's been taking case necks around to events. It might be the first time we see production necks out in the wild. And at that point, you know, everything's going to be pretty much set in stone. A few teething troubles aside, I think the system launch should go pretty smooth. And I've been assured that some of the niggles that I've experienced will be ironed out. So everybody else, how's it going, Anastasius? I think that everybody will, you know, be very pleased with what finally comes out. There's loads of software either in production or already out. There's loads of free games already being released or included in the OS or things like that. I don't know who's sending me angry faces, but yeah. So there's going to be loads when the next arrives on your doorstep. There's complete games, there's ports, there's tech demos. And not only that, but that some of the developers have been working really, really hard on some paid games, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The next is like a bona fide system, you know. It's not just a hobbyist project. You got to bear in mind from the back of the Kickstarter and the additional orders that was done, and the people who've already got boards and necks and stuff out there. There's going to be close to 4,000 Spectrum Nexts when this finally lands. So that's going to be 4,000 owners, and there's a lot of people queuing up. How's it going, Steve? There's a lot of people queuing up who want a Next, who didn't manage to get on board with the Kickstarter, and because of how long it's kind of dragged out now, they've not had a chance to order, but they've had plenty of chance to see what's going on. Now, this stream, my intention is to cover both the basics, the more detailed stuff, and to cover what's coming up. The reason for this is a lot of people still only just now discovering the Next. If you look at any of the Next groups on Facebook, I know there's a lot of people still or have turned away from Facebook or don't use Facebook, but it has become the central hub for people of a certain age, I suppose. We don't bother with Instagram and all that crap, and Facebook's the best way to put a lot of this stuff across. And the Next groups here on Facebook have been very active. The developers have been posting regularly and showing some things off. People like myself have been sharing streams. I've seen other people uploading little bits up onto YouTube and things like that. Eventually these videos will go onto YouTube, and when they do, then you'll be able to kind of see a bit of a progressive history of the way the Next has come on. But there's a lot of people just discovering the Next now, so I'm going to do a little bit of a crash course on the Next and what it is, and I'm going to kind of, for anybody who's kind of heard all this before, you can kind of shut your ears, but follow it along, because we're now getting a more complete picture of what's been building since, probably late 2015. This was all conceptualised, you know, that's 5 years in the making, and, you know, there's a lot happened in that time. People have come and gone. You know, changes to the system have been exponential. The original project, I think, as it was conceived, has just leapt far beyond what it was originally intended to do. However, at the same time, they've also kind of exercised a little bit of restraint. But I'll go into that now. So, let's break this down. How's it going, Jim? The Spectrum Next, right? This is the idiot's kind of definition, right? The Spectrum Next, for anybody who doesn't know, anybody who's just discovering the Spectrum Next, it's actually a third-party creation. I'm not sure of the actual brainchild, but the two people who were behind this and pushing this the most in the very early days were Enrique Olivier, I think it's pronounced, Victor Trucco, and Phoebus Daucus, I think was the other fella. And these, I don't know the actual, the full true origins of it, but they wanted to basically create a spiritual successor, a modern interpretation of the Sinclair Spectrum, which obviously, the Americans had the Commodore 64. The Commodore 64 was always big here, but, the Sinclair Spectrum was the people's computer, in the UK and in several places in Europe. In a lot of the Eastern Bloc, they had access to clones and things like that. And there we go, no. Yeah, I'm sure people will correct me, but either way, the system is conceptualised as a successor to the 1 to 8K spectrum. We had the 48K spectrum, we had the 1 to 8K spectrum, then we had the QL, which was a piece of crap, let's face it. If the Sinclair line would have continued, the Spectrum Next is basically where these guys imagined that the Spectrum would go. So we're kind of bridging that gap between 8-bit and 16-bit to bring a system that is more kind of on par with what would have been its contemporaries at the time. So you're looking at like the Amiga, the ST and things like that. Now, the reason the Next has become so renowned is because it's not just a Raspberry Pi or some kind of mobile device shoehorned into a box to emulate the Spectrum. That would have been the lazy way out. It was a board conceived to, adapted to, it's an FPGA board, which is obviously a field programmable gate array. What that does is it actually it doesn't emulate the system, it replicates in a single chip the entire workings of an original Spectrum. Now what they've done is they've built on that, so not only does this thing play your original 48K games, your 1 to 8K games, the plus 3s, all the variants, it will also run an operating environment like any of the entire range, like the plus 3, a lot of the Russian clones and things like that. It will all, but then they've kind of built on that and they've made it so it will accept the devices of the original systems. It would accept the peripherals, the interfaces, and it will also run the operating systems for all of those. So it will cover every kind of Spectrum base. They then built on that, and they've introduced new code which allows it to do things that is far beyond what an original Spectrum would have been capable of. So if you think about an original Spectrum, you've got an original Spectrum where you've got your 256 by 192 screen, guys. Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong. I think it's 256 by 192 screen, boxed in with a border area. You're limited to like a choice of 7 colours in a couple of shades. There was no sprite capabilities on the original Spectrum. You didn't get decent sound until the 1 to 8K come along. This thing just kind of breaks all those barriers. It can still do all those things, and a lot of the games you'll be familiar with because it will run the original games either through tape, through drive interfaces, or straight from a ROM file. But when it comes to what else it can do, the system has been designed to have obviously hardware sprites to open up the game possibilities. It's got loads more colours. It's got a massive palette of colours. I think is it 512 colours at any one time I think you can deal with, or 2 lots of 256. Basically it's got a lot more capabilities than the 8-bits ever had. You can draw things out in border areas. You can basically simulate multiple AY channels, so it will do AY audio like the 1 to 8K, but it will do a lot more advanced stuff. You can change the simulated clock speed from the standard 3.5 megahertz right up to, I believe now, 28 megahertz. I think is the highest, or I know they were looking at higher than that. There's no real application for some of those, but as far as 512, there you go. Thank you, Jim. So, as a system, it has been designed to kind of blow everything that was early 90s probably out of the water. If it had been released at the time, it would have been a phenomenal system. How's it going, Mike C? Nice to see you. So, as far as the actual system goes, it was originally conceptualised as a board, and I'm going to flip back round now to show you what we're talking about. So, the system has originally been released as a development board. You could basically, it was given into the hands of developers for a short while. But it was designed to retrofit into a Spectrum 48K case, which is what many people did. Some of the people made custom cases, and then there's other people who've actually fabricated brand new cases to house the Spectrum Next board in a Spectrum 48K like case, but it's actually a little bit different, and that's what I'm rocking here. This is a case from ZX Renew. It's a grey frosted case with a silver keyboard and keyboard overlay. I've actually got an illuminated keyboard for this, which is not hooked up at the moment. And as you can see, there's a few unusual little things here. We've got we've got joystick slots on the actual front of the system there. Those are the standard DB9 ports that you would have found on the Kempston interfaces or Sinclair interface at the time. We've got an SD card slot there on the side of the machine, along with a few admin buttons. And then going around the back of the system, if I can just carefully turn this round, I should have enough slack on it. You'll see we've got HDMI out, we've got VGA out, we've got the r.a.m. mic ports, and we've also got a PS2 socket there. The main idea behind that is that you can plug in an external keyboard, an external mouse if you want to, and yes, there are going to be plenty of applications that use those. It uses the same kind of power supply attachment as the original Spectrum. I've got mine set up with an inline power switch because I don't believe in hard plugging and unplugging, because that's how you damage sockets. So mine's set up with an inline power switch, and I think that'll be the way most people go. You'll see here from my little setup, I've got a few things which will look familiar to a lot of you. You can see there I've got a QuickShot 2 Turbo joystick. That was my joystick of choice back in the day, and I ordered a new one to use with the Next and clean that up. But it is compatible with other devices. One of the key things they've made it compatible with is Mega Drive joypad. Now obviously the advantage of that is if you've got more console-like games, you've then got a more console-like controller. You can use this for your classic games as well, but of course you've got the choice of additional buttons. So that definitely opens up the possibilities as far as the games go. So, in terms of the games, like I say, it will run your 48K and your 1 to 8K game library, either from a tape, from one of the interface plug-in solutions. You can use things like the Div MMC or the Divide and things like that you can get for the original Spectrum to run games from SD card, but it's already got a built-in SD card slot, so there's no real need for that. It will run tape files, it will run snapshot files, and with the addition of, it has actually got a Pi Zero accelerator board, and I think that's going to allow the use of TZX files as well for anybody who's got a collection based in that. So there we go. Mike's just said that at exactly the same time as I've just mentioned it there. So it's going to have all the emulation possibilities that, emulation. I want to stay away from the term emulation. It's going to have all the old system capabilities, but the kind of modern expandability that those modern plug-in devices allow. So, but the operating system, the firmware, and everything is all stored directly on the memory card. I think it will support up to pretty big SD cards now. I'm actually using a micro SD card on here. You can get dual SD card slots. You can use a hard drive, to my knowledge. You can even use, to my knowledge, the whole micro drives. Not that you probably want to, but the possibility is there if you wanted to do it. The interface slot on the back is identical to that of an original Spectrum. So as long as support has been implemented for it, then that interface will work. And from what people have been talking about, pretty much every interface to date works. So, as far as the Spectrum Next games go then, there is no actual set standard yet. The only thing that's kind of, a given is that games are going to be distributed for anybody who wants to do it. They will either be distributed on an SD card, and I'm going to give an example of one here. This isn't the definitive template for a game, but these are some very early releases. I'll go into these in a minute, and then I'll go into more of the software. These are some very early releases. This was the first commercial release, I suppose you can put it, for the system. They're not as advanced as the games you're going to see that are coming up, but they're kind of an interesting early experiment. And as you can see, these have been done the dual case was actually for, I think, a PlayStation Vita, but then you can see inside we've got a kind of standard SD card which has been formatted and has got its own little label on there. So just bring it into focus, for Dungeonette. This was the first commercial game for it. And a lot of people have already got these. The guy who created them, Adrian Cummins, has kind of come and gone. He's kind of left his mark on the Next, and but he's already stopped. He's released a few games, and he said he's quite happy with what he's done. So he's moved on. But some of the guys who've been involved in creating the firmware, working on, adding the new modes and everything, they're the ones who are really going to be breaking the boundaries of this system. This kind of thing feels like a Spectrum game. Probably got a few more colours, a few more features. The new games you're going to see are going to be a lot more advanced. But the good thing is, somebody had to be first, and these things, these games here, he did create quite a few. There's a little stack of them. See Delta Star, Montana Mike, Dweebs Drop, and Bubblegum Brothers. It's they're just, they're casual fun games, good for a blast. They're not perfect by a long shot, and the more we've seen of the new games, the more these game titles are obviously starting to look like experimental ground. But it just goes to show that a software library is already building for the system well in advance. Yeah, I know I talk a lot, Dean. So there's a software library already building. Those have been distributed on SD card, but that's not the only way they could be distributed. I mean, if people so wanted to, anybody develops a game for this system, they could still put their game on a tape. At the end of the day, you can still get pretty modern tape drives. You can still connect it to the system, and you can still load it that way. So if somebody wants to develop a dedicated Spectrum Next game, in theory, you could load it from tape. If people want to continue to develop Spectrum homebrew games, as people have been for many years, they'll also be able to distribute them on tape if they so wanted to. Then obviously you've got things like digital download. You can download them on your laptop, copy them to a card and move them over. But the Next itself has actually got online functionality. There's a few little plugins this system's got. One of the things it's got in there, it's got a Wi-Fi module built in, so you can actually get online with it. It's only pretty basic at the moment, but I think the eventual hope is that once it expands and once it gets into the hands of people, it will actually be able to have a kind of rudimentary app store of sorts where you'll be able to download games, and then from there, I suppose people will be able to download assets and updates and things like that. Not quite there yet, but there's going to be some great games to start with, so I wouldn't worry about that just yet. So now I've talked about it plenty. I can see people are kind of getting a bit antsy there. Paul Godia, if you're a new follower of this, or if you're experienced follower of this, you're going to love to obviously see this. This is where it gets fun now. We'll actually start looking at some games. So, when you load up your Next, you're presented with this, which to anybody who's used a Spectrum before, this is going to look awfully familiar. This is an interface. This is ZXOS, and this looks very much like the original Spectrum 1 to 8 interface selection screen. You can navigate this using your keyboard arrow keys, number 6 and 7, I think, on the standard keyboard. You can also navigate it quite handily. I mean, at the moment I've got this Mega Drive controller plugged in. I'm doing that because it's going to allow me to show you more games. But if you had a joystick plugged in, you could do exactly the same. You can use up and down on there, and you can navigate the menus that way. And if you're going to be using this like a games console, then that is probably going to be the way you generally use this. As for the way this is going to be used, I suppose, I would say probably 75% of the people who've got this, even though it's captured their imagination, they're going to want to be able to develop themselves. I think the majority of people out there are going to want this as a serious, modern, retro gaming system. And so they'll be using it much like a console. They'll want to turn it on, browse through a menu, pick a game, and be up and loaded in a few seconds. And the good thing about that is, obviously, because it's SD card loading, we can do that pretty much instantly. So if I go into games, go to the browser, and I go to the first category, which is games, you can see I've got a couple of categories set up here. We've got Next games, we've got 48K and 1 to 8K games, we've got apps and demos. The demo scene's still very strong for this system, probably more so than ever. We've got ZX81. It will also do ZX80 and ZX81 games. And yeah, so there's a lot of possibility. You'll see another entry there, but there's been no further information on that as of yet. It's a possibility, and that is the Jupiter Ace. A couple of people have spotted it in my videos and asked about it. I've avoided talking about it, and the development team won't tell me anything more about that, but I noticed it's an entry there, so I'm guessing at some point there's a possibility Jupiter Ace support is going to be officially added. I don't know. The idea of this is to make it a Sinclair kind of simulation device, so it's not exactly high priority. So we're going to start off with the 48K and 1 to 8K games, and we'll jump into this, and you can see I've already preloaded this with a load of typical Spectrum games. They're not sorted separately by 48K or 1 to 8K. I've just put quite a lot of my favourite games on here, and if we press left or right, we can go down the list. You can see I've got hundreds of titles on here, going through the alphabet there, and if we fire up any one of these, I'm going to let you guys choose. So if there's a game you want to see that was a particular favourite of yours, or you just want to see it on here, please shout it out on the chat thread. I'm going to wait for the first person to say, and I'm going to launch that game. So first come, first serve. Thundercats, there we go. Let's see if I've got it on the list. I should have. There we go, Thundercats, it's on my list. So now, bear in mind, I haven't tested all of these games, so I might have obtained bad files for these. And you can see I'm using Z80 files here. It should work just fine, but let's see what happens. So in theory, if I press B on the controller, this should launch the game. And there we go. Let's see how we start the game. I'll just turn the volume up a bit. I am reading all your comments, by the way, guys. I'm just letting you kind of enjoy a bit more visual stuff than I've been yapping away at for the last few minutes. So we've got J for joystick or K for keyboard. So if I press J for joystick, and I think I need to select Kempston for the sake of using a Mega Drive pad. I'll press fire now. There we go. There we go. and I'm obviously doing all this. B is the fire button on the Mega Drive joypad. Up is to jump. Some games won't play as well on a joypad as they would on a joystick, and you can see this is basically recreating the game exactly as it should have been seen on the original Spectrum back in the day. I'm rubbish at it, but there it is, and you can see it's an instant loader, so it's nice and easy to just change games when you want to. So it's got a little reset button on the side there, just takes us back to the menu. What other games are mentioned there? Chase HQ, yes, I believe I've got Chase HQ on here, so I'm going to quickly fire up Chase HQ as well. I know that's a favourite, definitely one of the best arcade ports that the system saw. So let's just jump back to C. Takes a little while. Really, I should probably break these down into letter categories, but sometimes I find it, so difficult to pick what I want to do. I like to have them all just put in front of my face, so I can just say, oh yeah, I'll have a crack at that. So I'm pretty sure I've got Chase HQ on here, so we're nearly there. There we go, Chase HQ 1, and I think it's the 1 to 8K version I've got. Oh, overpressed. Yeah, looks like I've got a bad ROM, unfortunately, guys. Sorry about that. So we can't see that one. What else have we got? Outrun. Yes, right, I was going to go into that. Right, as well as being able to play pretty much any game that you want to, you've got a couple of options from the title screen. You can see just at the top there where it says 3.5 megahertz. That is a standard clock speed of an original Spectrum 48K. If we press left or right on the keyboard, you can see, press the right button, we can dial that up to 7 megahertz, 14 megahertz, or 28 megahertz. Now, the difference that makes is quite something to behold. Press the right, there we go, I'll dial it back down. So if you think about some games, I'm going to show you the best example of this before I show you Outrun. The game I always use to demonstrate this, because it shows such a drastic difference, is actually Stunt Car Racer. Anybody who remembers this game, you'll remember it being quite popular on the 16-bit systems of the time. The Amiga and the ST, I think a lot of people played it on that system first of all. And if anybody remembers, it's basically a kind of pseudo three-dimensional racer where you control a very blocky kind of stock car that runs around on a track that's on stilts. And it looked very good on the Amiga and the ST that have got lots of colours and a fair bit of power behind them. But on the Spectrum and the other 8 bits, it didn't exactly look fantastic. Oh, you can use the joystick change speed as well. Thanks for letting me know, Phoebus. No, I'm not loading from tape. I'm not a sucker for punishment. If there's one thing, by the way, guys, that this is gonna, this system really can replace your current Spectrum of choice, because you do not need. If there's one thing people want these days, it's convenience. Nobody wants to be messing around with dodgy RF picture that you got to tune in. Nobody wants to be messing around with waiting for the games, tape loading, having things, mess about. So, and this is exactly what this skips. So, I'm going to go for Kempston joystick, and this is in standard 3.5 megahertz. And you're going to see that, as impressive it probably was for the Spectrum at the time. It's also not impressive when you look at it today. So if we go to start the racing season, so you can see the time it takes to actually draw the track on the screen. This is all in real time, by the way. I have got it in 60 hertz mode, so bear in mind the speeds you're seeing here are as of a 60 hertz system. and you know, pretty good for the time. You know, pretty good for the Spectrum. However, when it comes to thinking of it as a racing game, it's choppy. The kindest way to describe it is, yeah, it works, but it's not very impressive. It's very choppy. And there we go, up to accelerate, I think. That's it, and then fire to boost. So, you know, we're kind of chugging along. You can see the pace we're moving at. It's, you know, probably 4 or 5 frames a second. Let's be kind to it. And you know, it's playable, but it's like the second you go around a fast corner, or as I'm about to do, go over a jump, it's very easy to kind of lose a sense of exactly where you are. I mean, I'm losing control because it's hard to know if you're pointing in one direction. So yeah, a little bit painful to watch. But if we reset it, if I dial that speed up, how fast do you want to go? 7, 14, I've not tried 28 yet, it may crash. But should I try, I know 14 definitely works. I'll tell you what, I'll show you 14 because I know it works, and then if it does work, we'll try 28 and we'll see just how good it can actually get. We're going to launch that game again now at 14 megahertz. And you should see a noticeable difference in the way it operates, full stop. So, let's fire, single player league. And that'll do. And we'll go to start the racing season. And you'll see the difference the second it draws the track. There you go, that's how quick it draws the track. And now, okay, we've still only got monochrome, we're still drawing just lines, but now it's starting to move more at the pace you would have seen on the 16-bit systems. If I turbo it up and not crash, let's try that. Let's try that again. So playing on the joypads is not the best for this game, but it's actually dropped me on the track. Yeah, I suck. I'm not used to playing it at this speed. I do apologise. There's me mashing the car up. But you can see it's now moving at the kind of pace that the game was designed to move at the time, you know. I played the Amiga and the SDST version a lot, and it had some decent pace to it once it got going. I mean, I'm going up a big ramp now, so you can see the difference. It is now, you do now need kind of reflexes to handle it properly, and I haven't got them, unfortunately. But you can see it's moving at the proper pace. So, okay, just because I haven't seen it, and just because I like you a lot, let's see if it will load at 28 Hz. Now, I'm going to warn you in advance. 28 megahertz does work for some games, but I know from doing the 14 megahertz, at the 14 megahertz, some games would actually crash at that speed, so I'm not sure if it will work, but let's give it a test and see what happens. Well, we've got a title screen, that's a good start. We've got Kempston support. Let's see how quick this loads up now. So we go to, there we go. Oh, that was fast. Let's see what kind of pace it moves at now. Yeah, that's definitely at a proper animated speed now. Come on, drop me car. Let's turbo it up. There we go. Yes, we're moving at a fair old pace now. I'm getting mashed on the other car, but yeah, it's definitely moving. I'm crashing like a bugger, but let's fly over this ramp. See what kind of speed we can get up on this straight. turbo on. You can see the speedometer at the bottom there climbing, so... Ouch. I'm mashing my car up, but we're definitely shifting. Yeah, I'm rubbish. I'm probably better on a joystick. You have to press up to accelerate, which isn't ideal. But, I mean, you can see what difference that can make. If you think about games like, is it Driller, one of them? Which is like a kind of 3D kind of adventure. When you look at the difference this kind of possibility is going to make on that, it's going to be ridiculous. Yeah, catch you later, Dave. You can always check in later, mate. So, yeah, and you can do that with any of the games, and like I say, they all work. Just to show us, I should probably show you a ZX81, just to show you it's not just the spectrum it does. Quicker to just reset than it is to browse backwards. Oh, it's gone straight back to that. Okay, fair enough. Nearly back at the start. There we go. Get the right one. There we go. So let's go down to ZX81 and see if we can launch a piece of software on there. 3D Monster Maze, I think that's one everyone's familiar with. We'll just fire that up. This should load it there to hitch. Anyone there? Yes, there is indeed. Well, press something then. A classic from the old black and white ZX81. This is the stuff of nightmares for 1981, I think. I have no idea what the controls are. Yeah, my fault, I crashed it. Pressing the wrong button. But there you go, it does load the ZX81 games just fine. So, obviously, moving forward now. Instead of using the cursors... Yes, I know, yeah. Right, so, moving on. Things people really want to see are the next games. Now, I've got quite a lot of next games to show you. A lot of people have seen these before, so forgive me if I'm kind of going over old ground, but, you know, I'm trying to really show where the system is at now, you know what I mean? In the last couple of years, it's come a long way. Some people haven't seen any of these, and I just want to give people a kind of scan over and let people know what they're in for. There are a few people joining this stream who've never seen the next before. But I am coming on to a few treats here. Mike Ware is actually messaging me like crazy here, telling me that he's got a couple of exclusives that no one knows about. He might squeeze through to me. So, let's see. Just replying to Mike, and then I'll be back with you guys. Daggers in Space. Yeah, I thought you'd say that, Scott. Right, okay. I suppose that's the definitive game. So, let's not go there just yet. So, I'm going to start with Dungeonette. And the reason I'm going to start with Dungeonette, guys... is because this was the first kind of exposure a lot of people got. Actually, there's one more before that I want to show, and this was probably the first game that anybody actually saw for the system, and that is Nextoid. Yeah. Sorry, guys, Mike's making me laugh here. So, Nextoid was actually the first game that a lot of us seen. And it was put out as a kind of tech demo, you know, early game, you know, a good way to conceptualise what the Next can do. And it's a pretty good one at that, I'll be honest. It's basically an Arkanoid clone. And if we just file this up, you can see here it's loading from a .snap file. The Next does actually have its own its own format, which is going to be .nex, which puts the entire game file into one block. However, at the time this was actually done, that standard hadn't been set, and so, you know, there's a lot more raw files in here. The user experience on the production next is going to be a lot better than what you see here. We're just going to quickly fire this up so you know what you're dealing with. And like I say, forgive the kind of roughness of it, if it's going to load. Well, I can hear noise, but I can't see nothing. Interesting. Okay. Looks like I've broke something in my update. I should probably just explain, guys. I apologise. Right, okay. Sorry, Lampros has just sent me a message there, guys. I'll just quickly explain. You are going to see on this stream, and I should have probably mentioned this at the very start, you're going to see some, maybe a few broken things. That is nothing to do with the developers. It's nothing to do with the Next itself. The board that I've got here is actually a development board, right? It's the 2A board. Now, the development board was put out there. Anybody could order it on the original Kickstarter, but it was originally given to developers. Because of the wait for the Next was coming so long, a friend of mine actually sold me his that he'd already retrofitted into a case, and that's what I've been using to do a lot of these videos ever since then. The problem we've got is because the firmware at the moment is constantly evolving, the entire file structure, the hooks that it uses to actually launch the games, the file formats, even the smallest thing, any little change that happens between development builds of games and development builds of the OS, or slight code changes, can actually kind of make or break certain things. So if something ceases to work, it's not the fault of developers. I probably should have been able to had time to have gone through it all in advance, but before I actually started tonight, I hadn't updated my Next in quite some time. It had been several months, in fact, and I know that in autumn there were probably 2 or 3 different releases that updated the system quite a bit. Now, the actual files I've got for other games are older files. They were designed to work with the older firmwares. If you do want to check out any of the games I can't get to work tonight, just browse back through some of my old videos and you will see those. I do apologise for that. The reason I haven't had a chance to test them thoroughly and make sure everything works is purely because I had a hard enough game this evening just getting my Next even working. There was a little problem I identified early on when I first started doing these videos, and it's to do with the way the video signal processes when you first turn on the system. Originally, it was coded in a certain way to stop you bricking the systems in the early days. Unfortunately, none of the other development team really spotted it much because they worked with a single system and a single screen. I've used millions of different TVs with my Next, and I've identified that in the first few seconds there's a problem when it comes to actually setting up the display options. And the problem I had is that the update procedure happens in those first few seconds. Now, I was trying to update the Next to get it to work with the latest games that I want to show you, which in the process may have broken some of the older games, so I apologise if they don't work. But I couldn't even get my Next to run. I had to update it, but all the TVs I was trying to use, I've got TVs all around this room, on the floor behind me in the living room, and I couldn't get the Next to run at all because I needed to do the update and I couldn't see the screen to do the update. So I literally spent about 2-3 hours before this juggling TVs and working back with the devs, just trying to get it running. And unfortunately, it took me a lot longer than I thought, and it means that I didn't have chance to test anything else that may have broken in the meantime, if you know what I mean. I will fix them all in due course. None of you guys will have this problem if you've ordered a Next. None of you guys who've got the production Next would experience this, because the way it's coded to base level is quite different to these. These will probably need, these have got a bit more potential in that they can be easily updated. They're brick protectable, you know. The boards themselves are slightly different, I think, from the production Nexts. You won't have any of these headaches, I've been assured. It's a bit of a problem for me because I'm not a coder. I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer. Yes, I'm working on a game, but my involvement doesn't involve the code level. So I don't know anything about that. The guys can explain better. Most of the developers are actually on this stream watching now. So if you've got any questions that are technical, either watch this video back and put those questions to the relevant guys, or just shoot a message on here now and I'll ask it to them for you. See, John's just asked a question there to Lampros about that. Alan Albright, yes, the main changes Snap and Z80 are treated as legacy formats to the next ZX. We'll turn off for the next hardware for maximum. See, it's already getting technical on the chat thread, so I don't really want to go into it too much, but just suffice to say, something doesn't work, it's not a problem with the hardware. The system's on the doorstep. I think the hardware stack's pretty much been finalised and it'll all be ready to go for people to work straight out of the box, not like I'm dealing with here. So my dubious disclaimer is there. But I'm going to try and show you as much as I can. So unfortunately I can't show you Nextoid. Some of it may actually be to the way I've actually picked my display. You can select between VGA output, RCA output, sorry not RCA output, HDMI output, but then you can select 50Hz, 60Hz, there's interlace options, there's screen filter options, and I've just set it to the first thing that would work with this TV, to be quite honest, just so I could show you the system this evening. So unfortunately I can't show you Nextoid, but let's take a look at where I was originally going, which was Dungeonette. Now, like I say, Dungeonette is a lot more basic than a lot of them, but it's also one of the first screenshots of games anybody got to see. So I think it's important that people see that. And again, you can see this doesn't use the next format either. So, and I think we need to launch it from the tape file to get it to work. And then you can see we've got a few different modes you can actually launch it in. I think we just go with 0. And it's not displaying on there either because I've got it in 50Hz mode. Yeah, that's going to be a problem for anything. I think it's to do with the 50Hz mode. Just try that once more. See what happens. Yeah. Yeah, so that's going to be a problem, anything that's in 50Hz. I do apologise for that. 1 to 8K turns off the next hardware. Right, okay, so let's try that. In fact, I'll try launching from the snapshot, see what that does. Yeah, same deal. So there's a few new options on here. They weren't on here the last time I actually launched this game. No, same drill. So let's go to something that should be in 60Hz. And let's go to... Right, there we go. We know we've got something coming through. End for next mode. I'll try that again in a sec. Thanks, guys. See, I'm not very familiar with this. I apologise, guys. It's just I'm not familiar with a lot of the firmware changes that have happened. Right, so we're really jumping forward here a bit, guys. This is Crowley World Tour. This is one of the new games that has been or is about to be released. And this has been done by Rusty Pixels. That's Jim Bagley and Mike Ware, to those of you who don't know. And I went with work there from Alan, and I'm sure there's been other input from the guys as well. Some people might have seen this under a different skin, featuring a particular blue character not so long ago, but there was a few issues there, so the character is now Crowley, and probably a welcome change. So So, World Tour, Level 1, Music Game Boy. And you're going to see now what a typical next game looks like. And like I say, we're jumping ahead here because this hasn't been really seen much. Yeah, if it looks very amateur, guys, it's because I am. I'm just trying to give you this as a kind of end user experience. And what we have here is a rather pleasant Tetris variant, as you can see. And even though on face value it might seem like a token game, you got to remember this is a Spectrum doing this. This is a new type of hardware with new capabilities, and it's doing a lot of things that anything in the Sinclair line wouldn't have been doing very well back in the day. We've got a ton of colour going on. You can see we are limited to a bordered area on this one, but you can hear some nice AY music going on in the background. Got a nice full colour picture display there on the left. We've got a pretty cool little multi-layered starfield thing going on here. And obviously we've got full joypad control here, which is nice. You can only rotate. Oh, you can rotate both ways, I think. Let's get to a shape. Yes, you can rotate both ways when you've got a controller. So C is rotating right, B is rotating left. So we have got multi-button support on this. And I can tell you, I mean, yes, it's Tetris, but I can tell you I have played some very bad Tetris clones in the past. If you can make a Tetris game play badly, then you must suck. And I've seen some bad Tetris clones in the past. And this controls as good as the very renowned NES version. Probably better than the arcade version. I was never a big fan of the arcade controls. And it feels very similar to the obviously highly regarded Game Boy version. Music should sound vaguely familiar. I mean, it's moving at a fair old pace here. I'm sure if I drop a few more lines, it's going to speed up a fair bit. Let's see if I can. Not playing it very well. I'm just trying to get some lines down, but you can see it's controlling and moving at a fair old pace. There we go, leveled up. And the music's changed with it. So I'm guessing with it being a world tour, I mean, you have to forgive me, I've not played this yet. Other people have got a chance to play this. The first time anybody saw anything of this, I think, was Revival last year. And I didn't get a chance to play it. I was rushed off my feet that much. So I'm actually enjoying giving this a spin. This is my first exposure to it. I could be here all bloody night playing it, I'll be honest. So what do you think, guys, if you've not seen this one before? I mean, okay, it's Tetris, but it's somebody was going to do it. And if you're going to do it, it feels like it's been done right. And I'm liking it. See if we can get a Tetris at least. Even though you can rotate both ways, I still find I only ever rotate one way in normal use. Here we go. Let's drop a Tetris down. Boom. And I think I've just gone up a level as well. Oh, we're now in Paris on the theme, I've just noticed. Fluffed it. And on to London. Like in the national anthem thing. Repair that mistake. Pretty good in it, Rob. I'm liking it, definitely. So that's the thing. I know I'm liking it because I don't actually want to turn it off. Now I've started my game. But I've got to because I've got to show you buggers more. But I'm definitely loving that. I mean, going back to the title screen and that, there's quite a few options there to choose from. You know, I'm sure you can change the controls. You can change several options there. I'll look at that in a bit more detail in a bit. The one that everybody always wants to see, and hopefully it will launch okay, of course, is Baggers in Space. This is, with a fresh distro and a manual, I think I'll be fine. Exactly, yeah, exactly. Right, so Baggers in Space. This is the one that everybody has seen. This is the one a lot of people have been waiting on. It features your favourite bearded Scouser, and he's obviously been touting it a lot himself. Oh, I've just been sent something very special. I'll come to that in just a second, guys. But yeah, Baggers in Space. This is the one that is really kind of... This is the game by which all next games are going to need to be measured in the long run, because this is the first lengthy game, more in-depth game, and one of the most polished of what we've seen so far. And again, you can see it's limited to the standard area. There's no experimentation with dropping outside the boundaries at this point. And I believe this is one of the demo versions, not one of the final versions. But you can see that our little Mr. Baggers there floating around in space. And this has been designed to automatically switch between Kempston joypad use, Kempston joystick use, joypad use, or keyboard use. So I've opened up most of the levels on this demo, so we'll start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. And I know this is familiar to a lot of you, but you can never get too much of Baggers in Space. And so what we find is Jim is travelling through space, and he's stupid enough to crash every rocket ship that he creates. So he finds himself on various planets. And this should be very familiar to anybody who's ever played a Spectrum in their life. This, of course, is based on the classic jetpack. Except we've got a lot more going on screen. And the principle is the same though. We've got to build our rocket ship, shoot the enemies or flying objects, and then we've got to refuel our ship. However, unlike jetpack, we can't just grab our fuel and off we go. We have to go hunting for our fuel. So, we drop our dynamite, and off we go. And suddenly the game takes on a slightly more sinister turn, a bit more like Hero, if any of you remember that game. We've now got floating capabilities, as well as dynamite to blow up walls. And we have to rescue our fuel canisters from all round before we run out of oxygen. There's one. There's also secret objects, some secret power-ups, a bit like this one over here, which I'm going to grab. I'll just destroy the enemy that's there first. There we go. That gives us some points, and I think extra lives or something like that. Faster water, it does something, I can't remember exactly what it does. You see we've got our energy bar and our oxygen bar at the top corner there. Oh, losing a bit of oxygen by getting hit by those things. Oops, do you want to drop a bomb there? Good job you can hear the explosion off screen, a nice touch. Acknowledging that the world doesn't end the second you leave the screen. That whole video game trope of if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. The enemy placement remains the same. The spawn points remain the same, and your dynamite remains after you leave the screen. Destroy him before we come back. Try not to end up in the water. Up we go. Don't worry about losing that. And our ship is done. Level 1. Off we go. Jim Pack, yeah. That would have been a cool name. And you can see there's a lot going on this game. You know, we've got these nice starfield effects, these nice colourful planets, nice big sprites, And also, the one thing you notice most of all is how smooth everything moves. You know, I think we've got full 60 frames per second going on here. None of that jerky, redrawing the whole screen rubbish that we unfortunately had to deal with the original Spectrum. I know it gave the game's character, but you can see that by gaining sprite capabilities, the games haven't really lost any of that Spectrum feel. And that was the biggest concern for people who were originally looking at the Spectrum Next and thinking, is it just going to be an Atari ST? You know what I mean? And I mean, I'm glad to say, as things have panned out over the last 5 years, that is definitely not the case. You know, the game, you know, the games still very much feel like a Spectrum. The sound like a Spectrum. They play like a Spectrum, and that's the most important factor. You know, if you're going to make a spiritual successor to a Spectrum, you can't just, you know, grab a load of hardware, make a spec, and then, you know, just pass that off and say, this is a Spectrum, it emulates Spectrum games, because that just wouldn't work. The reason the Spectrum Next is so special is because a lot of care has been taken into retaining everything that made the Spectrum the popular computer it was in this country. And I'm probably going the wrong way here. So the good thing is, it's not just a straightforward matter of jumping around levels on this. There is a maze element to it. You do have to collect keys to access certain parts. And you do have to work out a bit of a strategy to go the right way. Because if you don't plan your oxygen right and you start taking the long routes or flying for too long like I'm doing, you'll fast run out of oxygen. And that's how you end up in a pickle. I did pretty well. I've been playing this game for a while now. And when I first played this game, I only did like the first 2-3 levels. But after a couple of plays through, I went quite a way through it. Now, I admit I haven't been to the last stages where I understand there are now bosses and everything to contend with. It's not just a jetpack hero crossover. There are elements of boss fights which make it feel a bit like Nemesis. I have seen some previews of that. It looks really cool. Right now, I'm getting a little bit lost. You can see there's some pretty cool effects going on. We've got a nice kind of Egyptian themed music going on. Space Fractal done some really good work on the music for these games. Taking the long way here. There we go. Yeah, and some of these stages have got traps in the screens repeat if you don't take the right route. There's a lot more going on than, like I say, just a basic game here. It's going to take you a good while to complete, even when you know what you're doing. I admit this is a game that's slightly easier to play on a joystick, but I'm not going to be switching them over while I'm doing this. But yes, all your Sinclair joysticks, your Cursor joysticks, your Kempston joysticks will all work. Mouse Mega Drive compatible pads and controllers will work. I say most, I haven't tested many, admittedly, but I know that a lot do work. You can run out of there, yeah. Send Jim to the sky. Boom. What processor speed does Baggers in Space run at? Now, I couldn't actually tell you that. One of the guys can probably answer that. When it comes to the clock speed, that only really applies to the Spectrum games. When it comes to the clock speed of the Spectrum Next and the Spectrum Next games, I don't know if it's incremental or whether you can choose whatever speed you want to. If any of the guys can answer that better, I'm sure they can tell you. Yes, it does. Baggers in Space, I mean, yeah, you're losing a little bit of a quality on here, but up close, the detail on these screens is fantastic. You know, there's a lot of colour on here. The depth of the music is fantastic. The colour depth is great. The picture quality is absolutely mint, but you're not going to get that without a direct feed. There are a couple of videos of direct feeds showing some of these games off, but the reason I do my videos the way I do is because I try to give them you the way an end user is going to experience these games. I'm sure you can appreciate that. And an end user is going to view them in exactly the same way I am here. You're going to have your screen in front of you, you're going to have your next in front of you. You're going to have to deal with the little things. Well, you shouldn't have to deal with any of the major things that, you know, I'm messing with here, but you are going to be able to, you are going to have to kind of navigate the menus or, you know, test different file different file names, things like that. So I'm just trying to give it to you in a very real way, if you know what I mean. There we go. Mike Ware's just said 14 megahertz. So there you go. So it's not like they're really pushing the possibilities, you know, of the system yet. You know, they're trying to do as much as they can. And I can tell you from the first builds of some of these games that I saw, the capabilities and what you're actually seeing has really leapt, and the games have developed. An example of that is Warhawk. Now Mike's actually sent me the latest build of Warhawk on here, so we'll fire that up actually, because I'm curious to see what the final version looks like. And this has come on a long way. I mean, early on there was some issues around the collision, the obviousness of the collision and things like that. You know, there was some things around the I don't know, some of the sound effects and things like that. They've really dialed it up to make things more impressive. First you make a game, then you throw on the polish, you know what I mean? That's the way it works, and I'm learning that a lot with obviously developing my own game for the next. So I apologise if the quality's dropping a little bit, guys. It could just be that the connection's not top end. But let's fire up the latest build of Warhawk. And this is another game obviously been developed by these guys. Mike Ware, I know, has put a lot of effort into this game. And I'll move the camera a bit closer so you can see it a little bit better. And some quite nice little effects there where it shows you like the original loading screen. Oh, the music's really been developed from the last time I played it. There's a lot more layers to that. That's pretty funky, man. I like that. So, but this is set up to run from joypad, so we can just get straight into it. And I am cheating slightly because I've got an auto fire joypad here. So yeah, I am making this look a little bit easier than it actually is, because it's hell on my thumb besides. And I am kind of commentating while I'm doing it, so you've got to cut me some slack. Auto fire is actually a power up on here. But you can see how smoothly the whole thing scrolls. Got some nice enemy patterns, and I can tell you that the difficulty does ramp in a nice way. As the levels go up. I'll see how far I can go on one life anyway. Not doing too bad. This is very much a challenge game. This is the one I often see this probably gets more play at the events when I see it demonstrated at the events than some of the other games, and I think it's because it's one of those games you keep repeat challenging yourself on, or challenging your friends on for high scores. You do need some tactics because he follows you around a bit. And he can sweep behind you quite easily. Oh, gotcha. See, you've got like an energy kind of meter rather than lives on this. Some people might remember this. I think it was on Commodore 64 or other systems. Spectrum were never able to handle it like this. But you can see like the way the hood is on the right hand side is very much in kind of classic Spectrum graphics and Spectrum colours. And then like, your main playfield looks a lot more like, I don't know, an Atari ST kind of space shooter. Maybe a Turbo Graphics, something like that. There's a lot of space shooters on the PC Engine, so yeah, it's a good frame of reference. I'll tell you, it gets very hard very fast though, I'll tell you. Like I say, I am cheating a little bit by the fact I'm using auto fire on my joypad. But again, that was something we did back in the day, you know, you play your games. If you were lucky enough to buy an auto fire joystick, there were some games where that really did help you out a lot. And I've got an auto fire joypad and it's helping me out a lot on this game. I'll probably still get owned by the boss if I even get that far. Oh, get out the middle. Go away. Here we go, boss fight. See, originally the boss didn't flash in quite the same obvious way. And I think I pointed that out when I played an early demo, and then they adjusted that. And the bullets were a little bit brighter as well, but I still suck and I'm dead. And so that's Warhawk, and I'm loving the way it's progressed, guys. Definitely got a bit more difficult. Again, another impressive game. There's so much going on there, Graham, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I've done Jet Set Gym. I mean, there's loads more going on. Let's see if we can get any of the earlier games to run. I mean, I've got the Hollow Earth Hypothesis. It is a mouthful to say. And I've also got a couple of other demos here. Let's see if we can get some of these to run. Monkey McGee, this is another one I've yet to actually fully cover. This is being worked on by Simon Butler, John... Oh, his last name suddenly evaded me. Sorry about that, guys. And Paul Hesso. Let's see if this will actually load. Yeah, it's working. Working fine. And now obviously we're into platformer territory. And yes, I suck at this as well. Some of the jumps on this are incredibly difficult, I'll be honest. It's been a while since I played it, so I'm not making myself look very good here. I think you have to go from the top. Yeah, some of the platforms are a real stretch. I'll try that again. McManus, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate that. John McManus. And they've done a great job on it so far. The music's fantastic, as I'd expect from Sid Manhesso. Pixel art's lovely. Mr. Butler does a very good job with his pixel art. Like I say, the idea is to collect as many bananas as you can and progress through the levels, but I'm just going to try and at least show you a few more screens. Like I say, my platforming's not the best. This is another game that's slightly easier to play on a joystick. It's another one of those as well where the more you kind of play it, you get the timing, you get a feel for the timing, and you can make it look a lot better than I'm making it look, because I'm not playing it very well. This has had a lot of work done on it since I had it. There's a lot more animations now, a lot more characters, a lot more going on with the backgrounds and things like that. This is quite an old build, probably over 12 months old now. But this is one I haven't showed you any kind of detail. You may have played it at Revival or some of the other events where the neck's been on display. But yeah, I've not really talked much about this one yet. Hopefully I'll get a review build from John at some point and get to talk about this one. I was going to cover it at one point, but at the time I didn't feel like I could really do it justice. So I will do a more in-depth video of this when it actually comes out. Once the next release, I will continue to do next videos, because there's still some people who won't have a chance to get their hands on the system. Well, it might be quite a while before some people get their hands on the system. And so I feel like, you know, I should still continue to do videos so people can they know what to look forward to when they finally do get their own. I think they'll be doing a new, for anybody who's wondering, by the way, anybody who's new to this, I think there will actually be multiple runs of the system. Well, maybe not multiple, but certainly more than one. And once they have said that once the first batch of nexts from the Kickstarter have gone out, they will then look at getting a new run of just boards done, maybe full systems. I can see it happening at the end of the day. The system's going to be too popular to not do it, you know, and people are actively still making games for it, so they're going to, you know, they're going to want as many people to play those games as they can. You know, there hasn't been a new Spectrum for years. It's a system to get excited about. Oh, I can never get the time. You have to get the timing just right to get past that part there. But I will cover that in more demo. Oh, I'm being sent some cool files here, by the way, guys. So, if anybody's looking for some exclusives, I've got some cool files I'm being sent. And if all goes to plan, I should be able to show you those very shortly. Right, let's just jump onto a few more games here. Melchior's Mansion. This is a very interesting project. One of the most popular games on the original Spectrum, of course, was Attic Attack. A lot of people remember it. And the guys who are working on this is basically an isometric remake of Attic Attack that's been done for both the PC and the Spectrum Next simultaneously. Now, the PC version is a little more detailed, but the next version has been done, and it's been made in such a way, as you can see, that it looks and sounds very much like an original Spectrum, even using the same palette, same kind of sound effects. But you can see we've obviously got sprite capabilities. We've got this kind of Night Law isometric kind of viewpoint. So it's very much a hybrid between the two. And we've got some very nice animations going on that wouldn't have been possible with the colour clash, obviously, you would have experienced on an original Spectrum. This has been worked on by Kev Brady, and he was good enough to send me this demo version a little while ago. Now, there's not much to it at the moment because there's no enemies. There's a few pickups. You can collect keys, you can open the trapdoors, and you can actually go to like a completion room, if you know what I mean, like the very end of it, which I've managed to make my way to do. But it's you have to kind of like do the map by memory, and that's where the challenge comes from. And I did manage to do it. It took me about half an hour the one night, but only after several playthroughs. There we go. Kev's just said on the chat, guys, he's posted an update on this project on the Spectrum Next Games site. This is probably a convenient time, actually, for me to jump over to the PC. Now, I mean, I've showed this game before again. I've got it on other videos if you want to see a lot more of it, guys. But you can see just how well this is shaping up. And I think that once this has got enemies and everything in place, this is going to be a really impressive, really cool game to play. It's fun to do. The character's got inertia when he moves, which you have to kind of get used to. But it controls really well. And yeah, once you actually get involved in it and start memorising the maps, it's a very in-depth game to play. A lot better than Attic Attack, I'll say. So once you've got like weapons and everything, I think it's going to be really cool. But I'm going to leave that on for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pan back to my PC for a short while. Reason being, there's some things which I wanted to show you demos of, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to because the guys who are working on them have actually said they can't actually reveal too much yet. There's things they want to show you themselves and they're not ready to do so. But what I can do is show you some of the things that are going on. Now, Mike Daly, as a lot of you guys will know him from his days at DMA, he worked on most famously Lemmings, he worked on Grand Theft Auto and many other things while he's there. He's been working on something just recently. I mean, people are looking at the potential of the Spectrum Next. He's been working on something just recently that is one of the questions that was asked very early on. Back in 2016, when we first had the first playable demo of the Next, Enrique brought it along to Revival 2016, and he was showing us some of the actual demo scene stuff. One of the big questions everybody asked, he said, what do you want to know? And people said, what can this system do? And somebody said, people ask the silly questions. Will it run Crysis? It's one of those. It's one of those kind of PC in-joke things. But then somebody said, would it be able to do Doom? Now, Doom is a little bit more advanced, admittedly. However, people are saying there's possibilities, depending on how much we expand the hardware. It's certainly possible. We should be able to pull off something that's quite passable. Now, some people may have seen somebody actually made Doom for the actual standard ZX Spectrum, and it's an interesting tech demo, but that is all it is. It's a tech demo. It's not. You couldn't take it seriously as a Doom port because it doesn't animate the same way. It's not a live action thing. But the guys have been working on this behind the scenes, and this update came just a couple of days ago from Mike Daly. Now, I'm going to go back just a little bit to see if... no, there's none of the earlier ones on here. But basically, in just a few weeks, we saw a massive evolution in a teaser video that Mike put up. And you can view these on the Spectrum Next Facebook pages for anybody who's new to this. If you cast back down the chat threads, you'll see this has been posted a couple of times now. And this is the very latest version of it. And what they've actually done is they've managed to pull off a first-person environment. A first-person shooter environment on the Spectrum Next. Now, this here is running in real time. It's done from a YouTube video. Obviously, there's no sound at the moment. I think there's actually an overlaid soundtrack, but I don't think it's actually from the game. I'll just turn this up. Oh no, it's not actually on this video, it's on one of the other videos. But yeah, Mike put out this tech demo, and he's done several videos now which have showed this coming on. Originally it had no textures, it was just plain walls. Then he showed it with like millions of textures on the walls, not just bricks, but the Nazi symbolism and everything. And obviously you should recognise this. This is Wolfenstein 3D. You've got your HUD at the bottom here, which at the moment is just a static image, but it's there. You've got the character's hands in front of you. They've got some rudimentary sprites, and you can see that they scale in and out as you approach them, just as they did on the original game. We've got a massive amount of colour depth on the game, so you can see we've got full rich reds, blues, browns, everything between. Everything has got its position and maintains its position as you move around it. So, okay, Wolfenstein is not a true 3D game, but on a two-dimensional plane, we do have a scaling thing going on, which allows us to have a proper, maze crawler. And obviously, that is Wolfenstein 3D is an elaborated maze crawler, and this is just fantastic. Anybody who's ever played Wolfenstein, okay, you may not have seen all of the ports, but it's not as good as the PC version. But if you've ever seen any of the console ports, this is very close to what you would have seen on many of the console ports. Now, this video here was just a couple of days ago. Obviously, a lot less sprites on screen. What he was showing on that video is just how many sprites he can handle and still move along at a decent pace. This is more akin to the game itself, where you have like the occasional enemy. You can see him swapping weapons, and you can see the speed it's moving along at. It's moving at a fair old pace. I would actually liken this, if I can, to the Atari Jaguar version, which is a very good version of the game. And obviously, yes, you're running a slightly windowed mode, but obviously when you've got that on a proper size screen and not on just a YouTube video, I think this is opening up the potential to do pretty much one of the best Wolfenstein ports. And let's not forget, you're not restricted to a keypad like you are, a joypad like you are with a console. You could be using a joypad and a keyboard. You've got potentially to plug a mouse in. You could be playing this like a PC version. You could have the mouse control for turning left and right. You could set up a couple of keys here for strafing left and right. You could even use a scroll wheel on a mouse to rotate through your weapons. You could play this just like the PC version. And although it's like, yes, Wolfenstein and Doom are slightly different, the potential is there. The question that was asked 4 years ago now, is Doom possible on the Spectrum Next? And the answer, I would say, is yes. Okay, maybe not to the level that Doom would have seen on some of the other platforms, you know, with the multi layers and things like that, you know, the up and down stairs and things like that. But if you were to just simply reskin, that, you would see, you could basically make a Doom skinned Wolfenstein 3D of sorts. You could create a completely original first-person shooter that's very akin to Doom, just like they did with Gloom on the Amiga. And I think the potential there is just fantastic. I can also tell you that Mike is working on. He's also working on Lemmings for the Next. That also looks fantastic. I don't believe there are any actual videos of that online. He's posted the occasional screenshot, and I have seen it a tech demo running in person. I know that something's being worked on behind closed doors regarding that, and I have heard teaser of the soundtrack, which Space Fractal did, just as a kind of, you know, just as a hobbyist thing. He just decided, he says, I'll have a go at a soundtrack, and he's written an entire AY soundtrack for it, and it sounds amazing. Unfortunately, I can't put my hands on that right now. It's amongst all my files here. But I did manage to get some of the tracks and play those back, and it sounds amazing. It would be probably one of the best ports of Lemmings if and when it ever comes to fruition. I don't know what the... I mean, we're not going to talk legalities right now, but we're just talking tech demo at the moment, and as far as it goes, you've got to kind of use games that people know for people to kind of recognise what this system's capable of. Just like showing Wolfenstein there, we're showing a game that obviously people are familiar with, and we're showing it running on this, a Sinclair. It's okay, it's Sinclair by name only, but this is the real next Sinclair. The QL, forget it existed. Let's not even go into the abomination that was. We shouldn't even name it, so we're not going to name it. But everybody knows what I'm talking about, and we know what happened there. It begins with a V, and that was supposed to be the officially endorsed Sinclair successor. No, it's this. This is the real deal, and you know the new system's a beautiful. It's a beautiful system. For anybody who's not really seen it yet, I'm just going to quickly jump onto this site. This is the it's the official Spectrum Next site, and if you go online, you can go on here. It'll give you all the information about the system itself and a lot more besides. And I mean, the system itself, the final complete system, looks like an elaborated 1 to 8K system. You can see there the casing for it. It's got the coloured bands on the side. Keyboard much like the 48K version, but expanded. It's got a full set of arrow keys and more functions on there, more close to a PC keyboard. It's all been planned out carefully. The whole thing is just a beautiful system, and when you know we've all now seen the prototypes that are out and about, that's what it really looks like, and that's what everybody will be getting who's ordered a full system. It is a thing of beauty. And we've seen the prototype now at events, and it's every bit as good as the renderings that we first saw. There's a shot of the board for anybody who's wondering what's inside this. It can still use the same ribbon cables and same keyboards that the original Spectrum used. It's been designed to be 100%, well, 99% backwards compatible with everything the original Spectrum was. And the new version is no exception. The board arrangement inside is slightly different, but it will use the similar board to this, obviously the final production version, with an extended section for the SD card slots on the left, and the keyboard ports, instead of being on the right hand side as they needed to be in this, There's actually space on the left-hand side there for the keyboard, for the joystick port, sorry. And they're set onto the left on this. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see it when it finally arrives, because it just looks amazing. As far as information goes online, for anybody who wants to go really in depth to this, I mean, I'm skimming over things here. I could spend many hours talking about this and showing you everything. Obviously, there's a few things I can't show you because of the way I've done my dodgy updating. But one of the sites that was set up recently is this one, and this is the Spectrum Next Games site. And if you go here, you can actually find a pretty concise index of all the software that's being worked on at the moment. So a couple of the games I wanted to show you there, I'm not able to actually show you because I couldn't get them to load. There we go, Dungeonette. This was the one I was originally going to show you. You can see the screenshots there. I don't think I can actually zoom in on the screenshots on here, so I'll just move up close. But you can see there, this is very similar to Attic Attack. I believe it was a port of a mobile game that he developed, and it works very well on the Spectrum Next. Not all of the games that followed were quite as recognisable as that, but the new games that are coming out, I mean, we've only touched on a couple here, but here's one from Lampros that I covered very early on, called Angry Bloaters. It's based on a game of a similar name that was originally on the Spectrum back in the day, apparently, and it's essentially a Bomberman clone. And it's a very good one at that. It's a little bit more lightweight. There's not quite as many power-ups and things like that, but it plays very well, and it opens the potential to show that you could do like 4-player Bomberman experience potentially on the Next. And like I say, a lot of these early games are showing, they're like an example of what is going to be the standard for Next games. The Hollow Earth hypothesis, again, I don't think I'll be able to show because 50 Hertz isn't displaying correctly. But again, this was another it's quite an extensive platform game where you have to find your way out of this mad world. And this has got like dozens of screens. A little bit of a synopsis here. If you go to the Spectrum Next Games site, you can look into any of the games I've covered here and plenty more. Obviously, we just covered Baggers in Space. That's the one everyone's looking forward to. This will be one of the first serious games to get a commercial release. This will be released on SD card. And you can see a lot more screenshots there of the later levels. And on this site, you can also get video previews of a lot of them. Obviously, these have been taken from direct feeds, so they're a bit better quality than what you were able to see on this live stream. But yeah, they're all there anyway for everyone to see. We're working on our own game, which I've covered many times. I'm just going to quickly show it you on here rather than play it live, because I haven't got a newer version to show you than what is on here. But I actually made my own arcade game for the revival events, and I made a complete game and arcade machine from it. And the guys at Rusty Pixels, Mike and Jim, I've been working on converting it. Again, Space Fractal's working on the soundtrack, but I'm converting all the graphics myself, and it's a kind of maze adventure run-around game where you run around and collect games around the event. There's people and faces from the events on there, and the next version it demonstrates a few extra things that the Next can do. If I just quickly call up this preview video of it. In fact, I'll throw on a bit of sound. Around and collect games around. Actually, it's going to play my voice from the stream, so I can't. But yeah, so here's my game, and you can see there's a few little tricks going on here you've not seen on the other ones so far. What we've actually done is we've actually dumped the HUD off into, because the original resolution of the game is 256 by 256. The playfield on the Spectrum Next is only 256 by 192. So rather than lose any more of the playfield or condense all the graphics down, what we've done is we've recoloured the palette to match the Next. The sound's been redone completely in AY, but what we've done is we've offset the HUD into the border area. So the border area can actually contain sprites. I think there's so many sprites you can have per line, and you can place those anywhere on screen. So the actual score and player count and everything are actually sprites that are set off into the border area, retaining the entire play field to be in the in the actual displayable, the proper graphics area. And this is pretty much an arcade perfect port. All we've done is we've taken a certain part, we've redesigned the stages slightly to compress them for the Spectrum Next screen, but all the graphics and everything are taken directly from the arcade version, and the colours and everything all closely match. We've got new sound effects, but we've added a few new extra animations, and the Spectrum Next port is actually going to have a 2-player battle mode as well, which will be worked in after the single-player mode's finished, and you'll be able to play as several of the Revival staff, several of the Spectrum Next developers. They're all going to be worked in as playable characters, so it's going to be really cool once we're done with that. But I'll have an update for you on that in due course. But yeah, this is our game, and I'm pretty proud of what we've done on it so far. And you can see each of the systems kind of moves forward, and you get different kind of backdrops on each of them. Some of the characters on here you may recognise. This is still an early version of it. Some of the animations are missing, such as the one for this character here, but it will become more advanced as it moves on. There's about 6 stages of 10 done so far, and then we'll be working in the 2-player mode, and it's quite a fun game to play. It does test your reflexes. It actually moves a lot faster than this now, and it's one of those games again that utilises the joypad, because you need 2 buttons, one for jump and one to shoot. We're trying to work in a system by where you can use a joystick to do that, by double tapping maybe, and holding the button to shoot, but we've not worked that out yet. So that's Revival Survival anyway. There's the arcade game. If anybody's thinking the cover art looks familiar in style, it's because the cover art's based on the actual cabinet art, and the cabinet art I had custom designed by Ollie Frey, who used to do the covers for Crash and Zap magazine. So everything's kind of gone full circle there, in that Ollie started designing covers based on games being featured in a Spectrum magazine. He's now designed a cover for an arcade game that's now being converted into a Spectrum game, and his cover art is now being put onto a game. So it's kind of flipped on its head a little bit, if you know what I mean. And we'll be using the cabinet art as the cover art for the game. And that'll be released in due course as well. Hopefully we'll have that out on SD card, and you'll be able to buy physical copies of that game as well, just like the other Rusty Pixels games. Now, there are other apps which I'm pretty sure, because of the way the file system has been changed, some of these apps are bound to be broken, unfortunately, when I try and run them on here. So I'm not going to be able to show you these in detail. But I'm going to quickly call up the videos just to show you on here. I don't embarrass myself by trying to get them running on here. But I've covered it in a separate video. There's an on-Next art package, basically a version of Microsoft Paint for the Next that you can use with the mouse directly on the Next. You can save and load your files, you can do rudimentary animations, and eventually Dave Sapphire's going to work in a feature by where you can import and export your graphics from your own games. So potentially you could develop your games entirely on the Next, in theory. You could edit your graphics as you go and put those assets back into your game. You can see him doing fill and, drawing effects, shape effects and animation effects. It doesn't work exactly with layers, but, you can copy and you can cut and paste. And there you go. You can see him there using the package, demonstrating. He demonstrated it much better than I could anyway. But when I did my video on this, I actually covered quite a lot of this in detail. And I took some of the graphics from Street Fighter games, and I did a little animated doll sim with animated fire and everything. Looked really cool. And so yeah, D-Next, that'll be a free package, I think, to use. There's other apps being developed. Nextdoor, I believe, is a music creation tool. It's a fully featured music studio for the Next, which I'm not going to be able to demonstrate you very well, because obviously I haven't got the sound turned up. But and I wouldn't know how to use it in person, unfortunately. I said it'd be better if somebody else did a video on that. But from my understanding, it's a very good a very good package done by Gary, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Biasilo. So, yeah, if you want to check that out, that's there. There's also Plot It, which is a like a technical drawing program, and also a combined paint program as well. Not had a chance to use that one yet, I'll admit, but I will try and get to grips with that. But you can see here, there's images being created using kind of stamps and copies and paste, and that's got a bit more of a menu-driven system at the top. So quite a little cool little art package, just like D-Next, sorry. We've got Nextel. Now, Nextel, I can't really show you in detail on here. I'm sure that by upgrading my firmware, I've broken my internet on here. You have to set up your internet in quite a complex way initially. I'm sure the production versions of the Next will show that a lot easier. But basically, they've already created a CFAX style kind of text and rudimentary image creation site you can log on to with your Next Live. And I actually showed a demonstration that I'd created a page. I applied for a developer page, and I actually created a page for Revival Survival. And if you go to Nextel now on any Next connected to the internet, you can actually go to the page, which I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. And on that page, you'll see the title screen for Revival Survival animating just like it does within the game. But at the moment on there, there's links to, there's a few little test pages and things like that. But there are some pages on there with some next information and news. Obviously, there's a few test screens been uploaded on there. And eventually, like I say, the idea is that you'll be able to go online and hopefully have some kind of basic app store where you'll be able to download games for anybody who wants to support that. Updates and patches for games. Developers will be able to distribute them that way once it's all been ironed out. So, it's a good sign of things to come. So anybody who's been wondering about the online capabilities of the Next, yes, it will be possible as well to have system-linked games. So if you wanted to play Next games online, they'll be looking for this online scoreboards, where you can just basically submit your score and upload it directly to Nextel for others to see their scores and challenge you. There's a lot of potential there. Again, a lot of this is in the hands of the users. It depends how much of the user base is going to want to use the Next in that way. A lot of people just want to play games, fine. But if there's a way, much like the modern console experience, is to share your scores, show your achievements, and show what's been going on there, then I'm sure people will want to take advantage of that. And Nextel is the kind of first step into that territory, if you know what I mean. So definitely worth checking that out. I have done a full video on that. So if you want to check that out in detail, jump onto the YamYam Retro Gaming page after this stream finishes. Scroll back through the videos and you'll see all of my Next streams detailing these in detail. Now, like I say, I've been sent a few new games. One of them I've already shown tonight, which is Crowley World Tour. I actually wanted to come on to that a bit later on. But I've also got a couple more on here. I've shown you the Warhawk update. And I've also been sent a couple of extra files. So let's jump onto there and see what we've got. So we've got here, I'm just going to call back up my chat. Sorry, I'm sure you guys have been typing, but I couldn't see it. Let's go to the YamYam Street. There we go. Alright, it's easy now to use the Wi-Fi.bas to join. That will still work the phone, no, will not affect the ESP. So he needs to set up the internet right now. There's a program called Wi-Fi. Oh, right, okay. So just a quick update on Nextel there, guys. The guys have just sent me some information on the thread here. If you want to read back, it offers a little bit of insight onto what they've been doing. Like I say, everything's been being refined. There's just so much stuff I've not had a chance to get to grips with yet. That's the only reason I've not been able to show you. But the guys say here, getting online now with your Wi-Fi module, it sounds like it's pretty much click and join. You used to have to connect to each individual Wi-Fi access point separately. I know I only had it set up for my own internet here, But I don't want to bore people kind of by going into too much texty stuff, if you know what I mean, guys. So you forgive me if I just kind of skim over this in chat. But yeah, you can get online quite easily now, apparently, and it will get easier as time goes on, I think. Right. Oh, according to this interesting bit of information there, Dave Sapphire says the Next can now do 320 by 256 resolution. That's pretty cool. If I'd known that, it would have made making my name even bloody my game even simpler. I could have gone straight to 256 by 256. I'd still need to use 32 pixels of that for the hood anyway. Yeah, fair enough. Right. Thanks for the comments, guys. Hood, yeah. Hey, hood stands for heads-up display, by the way, Graham. Yeah, it's referring to the things like your scoreboard and things like that. Sorry, guys, I've missed a lot of chat while I've been talking away there. I'm just going over that before I look at the next couple of games. Being on a train doesn't help. Sorry, Jim. Looks like a decent Amiga game, but with nice Spectrum pixels. Too true. My connection is poo. Yeah, Warhawk's awesome, Roger. I mean, obviously you've played it by now, and I know you're looking forward to it. There's a newer video than this. I think the latest version has the first level baddies you can kill. I did a search for YouTube earlier, guys, for that Wolfenstein demo, and that was all I could find. There we go, it's linked on the Kickstarter now, so I don't have the latest version in next format, that's fair enough. Oh, I've not added the most recent Kickstarter update to that. You'll find it in demos. Oh, right. So I can actually call up this Wolfenstein demo, can I? I don't really want to do that without Mike's approval, but I'm just going to see if it is there. And if it is, I'm going to take a look at it myself afterwards. So we've got ESP, next door. Oh, is that, sorry, is it talking about the Nextel thing? Yes, I get it. Yes, I see. Next basic, yeah, of course. Yeah, anybody who's wondering, the 48K 1 to 8K basic modes are back on this. You can go into that just like you could on original Spectrum and program in basic. There's also an extended next basic you can use as well. Not really a lot I can show you in that, but if you've used basic before, it is there again for you to use. So just so you know. Yeah, sorry, not Wolfenstein, the Wi-Fi.bas in demos. Doesn't seem to be on here. To be honest though, guys, my file structure is actually slightly off because I've just kind of cobbled together my SD card loosely for this. So I think my my folder structure's slightly off, so I don't want to go rooting around for it. I'm sure it's there though. At the end of the day, I'll show people the video so they know where they're coming from. Thanks for the link, Mike. Appreciate that. There's the latest Wolfenstein video for anybody who wants to check that out. So let's take a look at another couple of games then while we're on here. So we'll go to games, we'll go to next games. I'll just check my reference on the desktop here to see what else I've got to cover. Right, oh okay, at Christmas we had a couple of demos come out. They were released. We've got, I'll go down here, Rusty Christmas. This was released at Christmas time by Rusty Pixels as a kind of nod to everybody to say hello. And you can see it's the little Crowley character there in his Santa Claus outfit. I know we're past Christmas now. This is probably depressing a few of you to see, but... But you can see the guys have got plenty of fun time, plenty of time on their hands to do little things like this. Let's move a bit closer and get this to focus a bit better. How cool. Frosty the Snowman. So you can tell now the guys are getting more familiar with the system, and they've got more time between projects to do little things like this. It shows that obviously coding on here is becoming second nature to them, to throw little things like this out. Oh, we got another one. Nice little fire effect there. That's a cool little effect. I'm loving that, in fact. That could look really cool if used in a game. I know they use something very similar on Warhawk, but yeah, it's cool. So the Warhawk toy in the box, that's cool. Oh! Got some northern lights going on. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you good people a very Merry Christmas. It's a little out of date. I do apologise for this, guys. I would have liked to have done this video over Christmas, but yeah, I know, Dave. I would have liked to have done this over Christmas, but there was just no chance, unfortunately. We had a bereavement over Christmas, so it wasn't really in the right frame of mind for that. But it's great to see this now. It does make me smile. Very cool stuff. And then it repeats. So you can see the guys have definitely got a fun side going on there. I think there was another Christmas demo came out. Now this came out from a group, and I'm just going to refer to my notes here because I have got it. I have got it queued up somewhere. Bear with me a second. See if I can find it. Bear with me a second, guys. So I've got a little bit of information from him. This is from a friend of mine. This is from Dave Flynn. Now, Dave Flynn is with Paradise Games, as you can see in the bottom corner there. And he contacted me over Christmas. Dave actually helps us with the revival events. He's a big arcade collector as well as a coder. And he told me he had a demo ready to show us off, but I didn't get a chance to show it before Christmas. And it actually got leaked before I had a chance to reveal it as an exclusive. But he had a little bit of information about this for me. And what he says was... I'm just going to reset it a second. Right, he had this to say about it before I actually reload it. He says, they made this little demo from November onwards and just finished it. Took about a month to do their first true next release, which is what this is. Ian and himself been making games as Paradise Games since 1996, across a ton of different platforms from the Acorn Archimedes, Xbox Arcade, iPhone, Mac and Game Boy Advance. Been working on for quite some time, and he will talk about that in due course and obviously give me a good first look at that when the time comes. But for now, this is what they've got to release. This is, if I get the title right, Santa's Chimney Challenge. I've no idea what it is. I did briefly see a video on YouTube that somebody did a direct feed of. Let's see what it's about. I might have to play it on keyboard. Yeah, looks like I do. Okay, so it's standard QALP controls by the look of it. Oh, I've just got to time the drops, I think. Yes. There we go. So I'm just tapping A and it'll drop the presents at the right time. And I've got to drop them on the chimneys. I'm obviously buggering it up a little bit. And you just got to time the present drops. But see, although these seem like silly little games to you and me, it's giving the coders a lot of chance to experiment with little tricks and just the whole game structure and see how well they translate. Obviously bug test and things like that. And let's face it, it's not ugly, you know, there's a lot of detail going on here. Yeah, this was just their little kind of gift to everybody while they're waiting on their full games to come. And the games they are working on look very good, by the way, so hopefully we'll get to see those sooner rather than later. Whoa, this gets a bit mental. Oh, I'm really cocking this up now. I don't know how many levels there are. Getting the hang of it, but not doing too well. Come on, one more. Yeah. Yeah, it's as fast as I'm willing to go. So that's that little gift there from Paradise Games as a precursor to what they've got coming up. Nice to see, and again, reproducing the sound pretty well here. Enjoying it. Thanks for that, Dave. I appreciate that. Right. Interesting what someone in Crazy House has started streaming Netflix. Now, what it actually is, Dave, that is actually a fault of Facebook. After a while, if you stream longer than an hour, for some reason it tends to break up no matter what you do. I think they kind of throttle your connection in a way, if you know what I mean. Like I say, the only way I could get it to reliably stay on was actually using my 4G, so I am relying on that. But at the end of the day, it's legible. I'll keep moving it every so often to try and get a slightly better picture. So I'm probably getting a little bit of interference from all the devices in here as well, which doesn't help. So just bear with me. Just reading some of your comments, guys, before I carry on. Yeah, breaky uppy. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Nothing I can do about that. It should stabilise in a minute. There's a lot of electronics equipment going on here, though, and I am in a kind of semi kind of rural area, so I do experience breakup every so often. There you go. It's just been mentioned there. Kieran asked if there's going to be a second chance to get Spectrum Next with a case. There will be a chance, and there will be a chance to get the boards as well. Not sure when that will be, but it will come. Is it running again now, guys? Are you actually getting some kind of motion? I hope. Seems like it is, yeah. It is still live to some people. Yeah, sorry about the connection dropout, guys. Not really a lot I can do about that. My phone battery went a bit low, just maybe that's got something to do with it, but we should still be running anyway for anybody who's still connected. It's the downside of live streaming on Facebook, really. They've started to change the interface a little bit to aim it more at the people who use the whole PC desktop studios and the green screen and all that rubbish. And unfortunately, when you're just doing a straight camera feed, it does tend to break down. Sorry about that. like I say, they don't really do a lot for amateur streamers. They gear it more towards people who are making money for them. Right, I've probably got 1 or 2 more games to show you guys, so I'm going to jump on and try and do those before it breaks down completely. Like I say, there's probably a little bit of interference, guys, because of all the stuff I've got nearby. Let me just try and space things out and pan back out a bit and see if that improves things a little bit. Like I say, I do live in a kind of a little bit of a dead spot as far as internet goes, so that doesn't help. But right, okay, there's a couple of other things on here I just wanted to show you. Tie variant. Now, this is something I didn't cover in any kind of detail recently. I did touch on it briefly, but the game is now finished, and unfortunately I didn't get to do a video, so I'll quickly fire up and show you this. This is another one from Rusty Pixels. A lot of this is going to be Rusty Pixels, by the way, because I work most closely with Jim and Mike, so obviously. Right, so we've got a much better title screen now. This game is essentially a port of an arcade game called Solar Fox. I don't know if anyone would have played it, but it also reminds me a little bit of Grid Runner. It's a very similar thing, so I'm going to attempt to play it. I've not played this latest version. I don't know how functional it is, but I'm going to show it's pretty much complete. So let's give it a whirl and see how well I do or don't do. So obviously the aim is to collect all of the things. If you mess it up first time, you have a pretty difficult time doing anything. I'll see if we can at least complete a couple of levels. So you can now shoot. The version I had originally, you couldn't even shoot, which didn't help when you were trying to clear a couple of levels because you had no kind of defences. Basically, if you hit the side, it's a bit like Snake. It's game over, so you got to try and grab everything before you hit the side. The enemies can't be killed, they can only be stunned. There's 2 levels done, not too bad. I think the last time I played this, I couldn't get anywhere on it, so. But of course, it gets faster, and the passages get narrower, so you have to be really on your game. The level structure is actually a lot different as well to the last time I played it, so. It's done. I'm doing all right here, Mike. Not letting the team down. And that's with the joypad. You said this was easier to play with the controller, but not doing too bad so far. Don't want to go anywhere near him, though. He looks a bit dangerous. Ooh. Nearly there, nearly there, nearly there. There we go. Not too bad. You do have limited time now, which you have to go around. Oh, this is awkward. Ah, first life lost. I didn't actually see where I started. That was a problem. When I first played this, it only had the Warhawk graphics. So you're actually controlling the Warhawk ship. On the last demo I played, this is looking a lot more complete. Good thing is about a game like this is once you've actually designed the basic graphics, it's just a matter of level design from that point onwards, which is nice if you like the game, because it means you can just continue it for as long as you want to, you know. Come out hundreds and hundreds of levels with loads of different layouts. I've got a feeling I'm going to start running out of time on the next couple of levels, though. Oh, you can pick your ship on a nice one. So I didn't know that. Apparently, guys, on the title screen, you can actually pick what ship you want. So you can have this ship, I think, or the Warhawk ship. Oops, can't touch those. Cocked up a bit there while I wasn't paying attention. I blame Mike for that. He disturbed me. Some enemies can be killed. There we go. I do have a hard time seeing where I start on some of these. Oh, now it's getting tricky. At least I know where I start now. It's a matter of figuring out which enemies are the most dangerous, I suppose, and just keeping your path well away from them. Once I realised what I could do on that one, it was easy to clear. Yeah, holding fire also boosts. I noticed that. Could be dangerous if I start launching into something. Good way of getting out of trouble though. Yeah, that helps with your time, definitely. Oh, thought I got that then. Thought I'd beat him to it. Now such a chance. Take it, I can't kill those ones. So at least complete the level. Damn it. They're hard to avoid, man. Testing me now, ain't you? That's what it is, testing me. Getting me back for taking up all your time earlier. Like I say, guys, if you see any... I mean, I'm not the most technical person in the world. I've had enough time getting the next running. My streams aren't flawless, but at the end of the day, I'm here to give you a kind of overview on these things and just show them you in real time, give you the real experience of using the next, and just try and inform you a bit at the same time. My knowledge isn't the greatest. If you want any detailed information, ask these guys, you know. I speak to a lot of the developers on a semi-regular basis. If you've got any detailed questions about any of these games or about using any of this stuff, shoot the messages to them there. You know, you've got a chance to now. Drop them any questions you've got. And in between now and the next release, there'll be a lot more work put into all of these. So you've got plenty of opportunity to have a chat with them about it. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. I'm just for the people who are wondering why it's not super professional. I'm doing what I can with the equipment I've got. I've had to do a lot of rushing around today. I am eventually looking to start doing slightly more professional streams, but I still like to give it as real as I can. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm doing. So that's Tiverian, guys. I believe that's going to be another free release for people. So that'll be a nice. I could be wrong about that though. I'm sure Mike will clarify that one with you. You'll notice on the screen as well, a couple of people who haven't seen it so far, there is actually a real-time clock going on there on the screen. Not all Next come with a real-time clock, but this one has got it in. I do need to reset the time now because, yeah, it was set differently and I've changed the firmware, so I've buggered that up a little bit. But I will reset the time on that and make that correct again. Probably no point me doing it regularly because I'm still updating the operating system and everything on this. A couple of people have asked me, by the way, if I'm going to be hanging on to this development next once I'm done. Oh, there we go. It's not free, but it will be at a lower price than Baggers in Space. So there we go, guys. Tiverian is going to be a budget release, let's call it. And I think that's really good. I mean, speaking to some of the guys about the way they're going to price some of the games, they're going to be far better value than original Spectrum games were, I think. I mean, obviously you're adjusting for inflation, but they're going to be far better value and they're going to be far better games than the Spectrum could ever do. And I'd encourage everybody to support these devs who, you know, some people are going to be doing a few things for free. There are going to be some demo games out there and some free inclusions, but there's going to be some real premium games as well. And once they're out there, please support the developers because there's going to be at least 4,000 owners out there, and I'd encourage every single one of them to buy the game, you know. Buy a couple, you know, buy them all. From a collecting standpoint, this is a new system to collect for. So, you know, some of us have already begun. You know, okay, there's only a couple so far, but eventually we're going to have a massive selection of games. And wouldn't it be nice to have a system where you could say, well, I've got the complete game selection for this. I mean, already there was talk early on about the number of games being developed because we hadn't seen much evidence of them. I've now seen or played or know of or put my hands on probably in excess of 30 games for the system, and it's not even out yet. And if you look at the Spectrum Next game site that I pointed to earlier, in terms of software release and things like that, there is, I mean, it was rumoured there was about 50 things in development. There is now easily more than 50 games being released in development or on the way. And I can tell you now, looking at some of the crazy things the mad scientist Kev Brady's showing me, there really is going to be some, there's going to be some really next level shit shown on the next, and so it's the name couldn't be more appropriate. It's going to take a little bit longer for some of those games to come see the light of day, but we're talking about games with full FMV, full RPG, character building systems, truly epic games. Now that's something the Spectrum could never have done, even its highest hopes, And I suppose even if it had been released at the time, we've now got 30 years worth of experience behind it to look at the many different genres that can be explored on this system. This system will be able to have full action RPGs, turn-based RPGs. It wouldn't be out of the way to see some fighters on here versus puzzle games. Obviously we've seen evidence of horizontal and vertical shooters, flip screen affairs, and that brings me nicely actually onto one of the next things I wanted to show. Now this is going to be probably the first hands-on look at something that was teased by Mike Ware the other day. And it is something everybody is familiar with, without a doubt. And it is Pac-Man Next. Now, I've not tested this just yet. This is the first time I'm even attempting it, and hopefully it will all go ahead. And it's nice to see that even in the preview screens, the guys have given the due credit to the guys who originally made this game. And this is looking very impressive. Now, I'm gonna cheekily admit, I had a preview to. I've got to admit something. I actually had a bit of an insight into what might be coming. There was a little demo on one of the early one of the early software collections that Mike sent to me for testing. That was called. It just said Pac-Man, and was a rudimentary Pac-Man port, which I had a bit of a mess around with. But I couldn't really show it on any of my streams beforehand. I did have a mess about after the stream had gone. And then lo and behold, the other day, Mike put a video out showing that they've actually, I wouldn't even say ported. This is the arcade version of Pac-Man in all its glory, running on a Next. Now, Revival Survival was supposed to be a demonstration of how close an arcade port can be, i.e. that is a game developed for superior hardware, i.e. a PC, which is how I originally developed my game, would port over if you actually recreated it for the Next. Not that much work was involved because it used similar resolutions, similar palettes, similar mechanics and things like that. And it was a good kind of test bed. Baggers in Space and Warhawk are very arcade-derived games, They're games which use arcade-style, pick-up-and-play gameplay. Well, the guys have taken it to the next level. Now, what you're seeing here, this is the arcade version of Pac-Man for all intents and purposes. What this uses, what they've created here, for lack of a better term, I'm going to be slightly flippant with it. This is effectively Next MAME. Now, anybody who's used arcade emulators, and let's face it, everybody has at this point, you know where an emulator is. Now, I don't think anybody ever envisioned that a 8-bit system or, a modern created developers type platform like this would ever be doing full emulation of arcade games. And somehow these guys have managed to do it. Now, Pac-Man is one of the more basic Z80 based arcade games from back in the day. But what they've done here is they've created, it's an all-in-one kind of emulator, interpreter and front end kind of wrapped into a standalone application. So you can see here we've got the front end, which is all this is, and the title screen we saw. It's actually using the arcade ROMs, so the logic and the way everything reacts and everything is taken from the arcade game. And then what it does, it uses a kind of interpreter that allows it to obviously pan and scroll the screen as you just saw, and interprets the graphics in a way that the Next will understand, because obviously the colours, the actual display and everything is all slightly different to the way the Next works. But for all intents and purposes, the game itself is arcade perfect. It's effectively simulating the arcade game, not true emulation, not a port, somewhere in between. So now we're going to give this a try. You can press V to change the view. There we go. Dave Sapphire just elaborated. Use the original Pac-Man ROMs, which have been patched to talk to the Next hardware. So there you go. So it does modify the ROMs slightly, but it is still using some of the original arcade code, so it should feel very much the same. Thanks for saying so, Rick. I appreciate that. I'm glad you've enjoyed the stream. Mike said if I press V, I can change the view. So oh, there we go. So we can actually have full screen view from rotated position. Full screen view compressed with a hood at the sides. I like that view actually, seeing as I'm using a horizontal screen. Or you can have it obviously with the kind of custom interface there. Let's roll with that because that's the most familiar. I wish I could rotate this screen because it'd be really good, but yeah, I'm not quite there. So, but let's give this a bit of a whirl. So, I'm not sure what the inputs were. Mike, you're on here. What's to insert coin? 5 or 0 was it? I think it's on the title screen. I'm sure he'll tell me in just a second, guys. Two seconds, guys. Beck, you carry on. I'll warm mine up in a bit. I'm just trying to find what insert coin is, and then hopefully I can get a game going. Oh, there we go. On the controller, it's already set to just press start, adds the coin, and then off. Oh, there we go. One to play, one player. So it's set up for my controller, mate. I should have just gone straight to the controller. Yeah, three credits. Oh, 3 for credit, 1 start. Okay, thanks, mate. Appreciate it. So let's start a game. Here we go. Now, I'm sure there's people out there who are better Pac-Man players than me, probably a bit more experienced, can tell me if the enemy logic is actually akin to that of the arcade game, because I don't know the patterns or anything, so I'm just winging this as I go along. But if anybody can tell me if the enemy behaviour is close to that of the arcade, it'd be helpful. I do know is that the orange ghost should generally head towards the bottom left corner, which he looks like he's doing. Yes, he is, and he's doubling back, so I think he'll linger around here. Let's just lure the other ghosts. So yeah, that's definitely the same. As to how they're following me, if that's the same or not, I don't really know. Whoa, pinky double back there. This would probably be a lot better to play on a joystick, to be fair, but I'm using the joypad. But you know what? It plays really well. I'm impressed. If I complete a stage, I'll be proud of myself. In fact, Mike, I quite like what you've done here by dumping the hood off to a vertical display on the sides, because it's still perfectly readable and doesn't kind of encroach on the screen space too much. Better than dumping it off completely or compressing it. Oh, lost a life. Nicely done. I mean, the sound effects are not identical to the arcade, but they're damn well close. In terms of feel, it's very close to it. If I had the display rotated so the actual play field is in the aspect ratio it's familiar, I'm sure as well the speed and pace that he moves at and everything would feel very similar. But the way he turns corners and everything feels very similar. Yeah, I'm liking this. could see from his speed there, his speed pace is about the same as the arcade because he just about gains on you. At about this level. Yeah, it's not far off at all. So yeah, this is, I mean, okay, it's Pac-Man. Right, Pac-Man we've all seen a million times over the years. That means nothing. I did say Jim and you, mate, I think, who worked on this. It's just that, sorry, David commented above. That's why I mentioned Dave's name. Yeah, I know it's you and Jim. Sorry if I said somebody else's name. I might have been getting confused. Well, when you're actually trying to play a game and commentate, sometimes things get a little bit lost. And I've been talking now for a good 2 hours probably. So that is really good. I'm really impressed with that. I could play it for hours. But the reason this is significant, guys, is because as it happens, this opens the door. I was actually talking about talking about this with Mike the other day, and you know, and with Jim, and what they've essentially said is, I asked like how it works. So I said I wanted to speak about it semi-intelligently, and that's why the way I've kind of described it to you there is that the way it works is because anybody who knows emulators obviously knows that you've got the emulator, which is the software that sort of copies the original hardware in code and then uses the original game ROMs to display the graphics, the sound, and execute the logic. It's because I'm trying to kind of relay to you in a way that many of you out there who work with emulation will understand. This is effectively doing the same, but rather than being an all-encompassing, you know, all the different cores are thrown into one standalone emulator, it's been packaged in such a way you have to obtain and use your own ROMs. The ROMs then have to be patched to be able to work with the actual program that's running this, and then the program itself kind of part emulates it, part interprets those patched ROMs in a way that the next can understand, and then displays them in the way the next display can actually display it. So it's a kind of it's a hybrid front end emulator interpreter. That's the best way I can describe it. The reason it's significant is because talking with the guys, this opens the doors to a lot more for this work could be built on. And as it happens, while I've been talking about it, the guys, Mike's just sent me through a file. Now I'm going to try and do this live on camera now. He's shown me a little preview of something they've literally been working on in about the last 48 hours. And I asked what the possibility would be of using this to build on and elaborate on and run other Z80 based games, or making it into a full emulator type program. It'll never probably be that, but it's not to say if the source code wasn't available, other people couldn't do it. And it's also not to say that it couldn't be built on in order to write clones of the arcade games, if you know what I mean. And well, if we're exploring the possibility of the next, then why couldn't it be a viable Z80 emulator? You know what I mean? So I'm just going to quickly kill this for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what's involved now in obviously using this with a PC. So I'm just going to drop the power to this. We're going to pop out the SD card. And you can see it's a micro SD to SD adapter that I actually use for this. I'm going to grab my SD card reader, wherever that might be. I think it's kicking out the table. Yes, it is. And yeah, I've just been sent some files by Mike for something that's going to interest you all to see. And this is definitely going to be everyone's first look at this. So stick around for a few minutes if you're not too bored yet. And you're going to get to see something brand new here. So I'll try not to cover too much of my chat, but you can see the file structure there of the actual next SD card. I've got these are the firmware files that you can use to do your updating. That's the main firmware that actually runs the environment. The operating system is all built into there. And you can see I've got separate categories here for demos and things like that. I've created my own file structure here within this folder called Games, and that's where I keep all my apps, demos, next games, 48, original Spectrum games, all in one place. So I'm just going to jump onto my chat for a second, and I'm going to download what Mike has shown me, and so I'll quickly download this, and then I'm going to throw this, unzip these files, and I'll put them into the folder I was just working with. Brilliant. And now we can copy these over to the memory card. Kill that. Kill that. Memory card, and we'll drop this into the folder now. And this is, everybody's wondering how simple it is to actually, once you've got your final end user thing, it's just a matter of organising your files just like you do on your PC. And we'll copy these onto here, copy and paste them in. Now the one thing I do use is I use a little program called Fat Sorter, and that's because everything's formatted in FAT32. It can put things out of order. So when you organise your files in alphabetical order, when you first copy them onto your SD card, they may drop out of order, and I don't really like that. And also, for the sake of how quick it loads the SD card, it can be greatly affected when you've got a lot of files on here if they're out of order. So whenever I copy new stuff on, I tend to use the sorter, and that will organise all the files into a logical order on the SD card. So the Next will actually read it a lot better when you do that. So that's something I encourage you to do. It does wear out your SD card faster, apparently, but it's something I like to do. SD cards are 10 a penny now, so if an SD card starts to wear out, you can always back up your files, copy into a new SD card, use different SD cards for different things. Me, I'm only using the one at the moment. All my spare small SD cards have all been used in flash devices and EverDrives recently, so I'll just give that a second to finish doing. Sorry if you're all talking to me, by the way. I've just closed my chat window on here, so hopefully this will all work, and I'll get Mike's advice if there's anything else I need to do. So that's done. We'll safely remove our memory card. You can't tell what my favourite game is, by the way. It's right there on the wall. So we'll close all that. We'll jump back to the stream. Right, you are still all here, thank you. Oh, there you go, thanks Dave Sapphire. Yeah, you use it as well. OSD sorter you use. Thank you. Harry and Meghan have written a game. Gallagher Game Boy emulator. I'll tell you what, John, the possibilities are definitely there. So let's pop all this back into the Next, and hopefully the Next will start up okay, because I did have some issues with the way I'm trying to get it to display, just with how much I rushed to get it all set up. So let's see what happens. Hopefully it'll come on first time. No, it's playing silly buggers. Right, give me 2 seconds, guys, and I will be right back with this. I'm not going away, just stick around for 2 seconds. I need to quickly run and do something, and then I can come back. I need to actually quickly plug my Next into another TV. This was part of the problems I was having before the stream, by the way. This is nothing anybody else will have to deal with. There's something I quickly need to do, else this won't work at all. So bear with me just a second. There we go. Right. Sorry about that, guys. Just in case, for those of you who didn't know what was going on there, had to dash off there. I said I'll explain at the start of the stream the problems I was having with regards to the new firmware and actually getting a full display properly. You won't have any of these issues with the final next. This is just because I'm messing around with developer builds. But we're back. Just going to pop my controller back in. And we're going to get a first look here, I think. Assuming everything's worked according to plan. I'm going to get a first look at something Mike's just sent me. Hopefully this is working, because I don't have to unplug it again. Let's try it. Oh, there we go. Is it going to load? Oh, excuse me. I think I did, mate. I think I did. 2 seconds, just quickly try that again. Hopefully it won't lock out this time. I definitely set it all to copy. Try that again quickly. Stick with me, people. I knew I'd be doing this live. I knew something would mess up. But let's try this again. Yeah, they're definitely there, mate. ROMs are there in the ROMs folder. the game is there. The ROM folder in the same directory. Yeah, is the next file? Yes, mate. You can see the structure right there. Look, we've got. Let's quickly show you. There's the ROMs folder. In next games, there's the ROMs folder. There's the next file. But obviously, it's sharing a ROMs folder with the Pac-Man ROMs. Is that affected it? Do you think? I don't know, I'm showing you as best I can. Well, like I say, I've just showed that. That's what I'm showing you. We've got the file structure there. Next game's ROMs. I've got all the ROMs in there. The Pac-Man ROMs are in there as well, obviously. And there's the Donkey Kong. Maybe if I delete this, I'll delete the save file it's created, and I'll delete the one for Pac-Man as well. See if that affects it. Might end up being a little bit of an anticlimax, this one. To be fair, guys, give Mike some slack on this. He's literally just compiled this. So, we are kind of winging it as we go. Just thought it'd be interesting for you to see the kind of discussions and backwards and forwards us guys have when the guys want me to show something off. There's always a bit of a back and a forward and a trial and error, but you might be witnessing for the first time something running here, so let's just see what happens. I'll just try that once more here. I'll pop that back in. Hopefully this will load up first time this time. Better do. There we go. So here we go, Mike, look. Games, next games. So there's the ROMs folder, look. There's all the ROMs. And here's the actual file, so. Ah, there we go, it's worked this time. I deleted the two save files, that seemed to do the trick. We've had that before when we've been testing games. If you now delete the save file for something else, it interferes. There you go, guys. So first look, something that's not been seen before. Hopefully you can see this okay. Just adjusting the camera slightly. This is Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong. Now, I saw a preview picture of this literally right before this stream started from these from these guys, and they show me that they show me this with like garbled graphics and things like that. So in the time we've been doing this stream, they've messed about with it, and look what we've got. We've got original Donkey Kong. Does it work, Mike? Oh, we can add credits. See if we can control it. Oh, we're off. Here we go. No sound yet, but that's fine. Couple of palette. Oh, sweet. This is even more accurate than the Pac-Man. And it's controlling pretty well with a joypad, which isn't easy to do. Oh, we even got hammer control. I suck at Donkey Kong, by the way. And if this is the arcade ROMs, I'm going to die fast. Oh, the hammer doesn't flash yet. Oh, scoring well. I'll tell you a lie, actually, it's not too bad with an 8-way D-pad. Terrible with an 8-way joystick. Oh. Right, let's try that again. Oh, that's brilliant, that is. Can I change the display on this one yet, Mike? Can I change it so it displays vertical, I don't suppose? I'll leave that barrel. I'll try and get to the top. See if we can make it to stage 2 at least. Ah, not damn fast enough. I think it looks brilliant. Don't you think, Dave? How's it going, Barry? You've missed a lot of it, mate. Mate, it's like I say, there you go, guys. You heard it from Mike there. They literally only started this yesterday, but this is obviously built on what they did with Pac-Man that you've just seen. And this is what they managed to do in 4 hours. It's like I say, once the groundwork is there, you can see what possibilities then come. Do you know what I mean? And obviously this has been built on in 24 hours. So yeah, I can press V. So, oh, there we go. There we go. Full screen. Let's try that again. See if we can get past level 1. So in just 24 hours work building on Pac-Man, we've now got emulation for, well, interpretation, I'm going to call it, of Donkey Kong. Oh, might need to adjust that slightly for the bottom there. It's hard to see the very bottom, but at least now it's I can see the top of the screen a bit better. So we can get on. So we'll see if we can clear up this first stage. Nope. I'm going to get hammered by barrels. If we can complete this, I'll be well happy. It's mad to do this because, like, obviously everybody who knows me and what I do a lot of work with emulators, especially PC emulation. And I'm a big arcade fan. Everyone knows my roots are in the arcades. So I think we're in a pretty decent position to say that this is exciting news, really, because this opens the door for maybe not a true next MAME, but the options are also there, but you can't change them and say, no, that's fair enough. At the end of the day, mate, you've in the time I've been doing this stream, you've turned what you showed me as a kind of proof of concept picture into a moving game just for these people to see. So I think they should be grateful. Oh, backwards jumping even works. Just waiting for my break. There we go, that's it. Stupid. I'll tell you, Donkey Kong's such a hard game. And this ain't no easier at all. I'm just determined to get to the top of the screen. If we can get to level 2, I'm assuming everything's there since all the ROMs are here. So, in theory, if we can get to the top of the screen, I'm going to level 2. When it starts, there we go. I agree, Dave. I agree. And what's good, there's still a lot of people watching this. So a lot of people have just seen this for the first time, which is nice. And you can see all the animations are there, you know. Few palette issues aside, it's all there. The animation's identical. The gameplay's identical. I'll tell you what, it's just as friggin' hard. Oh no! A bit of a blip there. Whoa! It came back on. That's alright. I'm still alive. Just about. I think it'll last. Come on. Yes! Yeah! Done level 1. See how level 2 looks. I finally saw the other day, the first time, how to do this level. Oh no, I've done the wrong bloody way now. I'm supposed to leave the peg with the hammer in, so you can walk with the hammer into the middle. Sorry, I'll just go for completion. Die, flame dude. Yeah, you stay there. No, stop going off. Not quite sure why it's doing that, guys, but definitely a resolution thing. I think all the tricks would work. If I was to stand there and jump at his foot, I think it would score hundreds and hundreds. Come on. See if we can make him fall. Yes. Not bad. Impressive stuff, eh, guys, yeah? I mean, you've seen a few new things tonight. You've seen new games. You've seen the inception of the next emulator. You know what I mean? The potential is crazy. I don't think delving too far into emulation will be good because it needs to be proven as a system in its own right. You know, at the end of the day, that's what your Raspberry Pis and your PCs can do. You know, everyone's delved into that now. And as a system, this is a good one. You know what I mean? And it doesn't need emulators to carry it forward, but this is brilliant. So, but anyway, before I get ahead of myself, it's been a really long stream, guys. I apologise, it's kind of taken up, but I'm just trying to show you everything that's gone on. I'm going to attempt to flip this. Actually, no, I'll just turn it round to myself. And then I'm gonna sign off in a minute because my supper's just arrived, so I'm just gonna turn this round. But I'll give it a second to adjust. Let me dog out. Right. So. Anyway, guys, you've seen some brilliant stuff tonight. I mean, I've pretty much covered the earliest games right up until what's going on right about now. I've explained to you what's going on with regarding the release of the system. I've showed you the origins of what's been going on with it. I've explained what the system is, what it's going to be to people, how I think people are going to use it. And soon enough, everybody's finally going to get a chance to get their hands on it. A couple of people have asked, by the way, a couple of questions I know will be asked. I've got a full production next coming, so has my brother. Mine's the all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles, laser engraved jobby. So that will be obviously my home next. I've said I'm probably going to sell the development next once I've got my main one. It may end up being that I use this for a little while for events and things like that, and obviously to continue development because I'd rather only break out my good one or leave my one set up at home. So I might hang on to this for a little while, but eventually I may let this one go. But don't be bombarding with emails asking to sell it because it's not on the cards just yet. So, but you like I say, you've seen some of the earliest games. I've showed you some of the examples of software you're going to be able to develop with. You're going to be able to get online with it. I've showed you some previews of games that are coming up. I've showed you some of the demos that have come out over Christmas, and I've just showed you 3 or 4 brand new games, and I've just showed you a game that's been developed literally in the time I've been doing this stream. Now that shows you, these guys are serious, who are working on development for this system, and I think that when you get your next, I know the hype has kind of been waning a little bit because the delay was getting longer and longer. Everyone didn't know what was happening. People didn't know when they were going to be arriving. People knew it wasn't going to be a pipe dream, but at the same time, people didn't know if and when they were going to get their hands on them. And I know the interest was fading. I've seen some people, sadly, sell their pledges, and you shouldn't be doing that. The next was always going to come. You just had to have a little faith. It was always a thing. It was never a pipe dream. And it's taken a lot longer than we anticipated. But after 5 years, we've gone from a conceptualized Spectrum emulation device into a fully fledged, brand new, spiritual successor to the Spectrum. And the full production machines are going to be here in a couple of weeks' time. And when you do, you're not going to be disappointed. There's going to be loads of games to play. There's going to be stuff to buy. There's going to be stuff to experiment with. And anybody who loves the Spectrum, I honestly think, with the problems I've had, personally, I mean, I love playing my old systems, but the problems I've had with using even like the old devices with the modern, like the Div MMC and things like that, you've still got to deal with dodgy picture, slightly iffy reliability, blown power supplies. You've got none of that with this. You've got modern hookup capability with HDMI. You've got display filters to make it more authentic to look like it used to look. You can still code in here in BASIC. You can still code on here in however way you want to. You've got on-system development tools. You've got games you can play at your fingertips. You can instantly load anything. There's guys making emulation for it. There's guys making epic, PC-style games for it. There's loads going on with it. If you've been following Next up until now, and you've lost a little heart, I understand it, but don't. I'm just saying that it's going to be a hell of a system. And yes, I've been lucky enough to have one in my possession, and even I didn't realise just how much I was going to use it until I had one. And then obviously next thing you know, I'm making a game myself for it, and I'm getting quite engrossed with these guys, and I just think if you just hang on that a little bit longer now, they're going to be here, and you're going to be really envious of the people who've got them. There'll probably be a little bit of scoffing for the people who missed the boat, but for the people who aren't scoffing and the people who are like excited about it and continue to be, you'll get your chance to own one. There's going to be 4,000 owners out there. Some it may have been a passing fad, but if even half of those are fully serious about it, I think when they get them, they're going to be more than pleased with the results. You've seen them at events, you've got hands-on with the developers, it's been closely worked on with people. I've had an influence on some of the things that have been done in the games at very least, so anybody out there, it's definitely going to be a kind of crowd-maintained system, and, the developers have fully got behind it. It's one of the first of these kind of project systems that real developers have got behind, and the developers you all know develop games that you knew and loved, and if there's a reason they've got behind it, if they've got behind it, you've got to know there's good reason to do so. So, follow, back them up, buy their games, play this system, buy this system, don't sell your pledge. It's a brilliant system. Nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is people's faith in it, and it's easy to do when you see the state of a lot of things that happen on Kickstarter and all the other crowdfunding sites and things like that. This was never going to be that, and we've seen more than enough evidence this was going to be the shit from day one. So just stay hyped for the next. I'm going to show you a bit more as things come on. I'm going to be showing more development with my game. The guys from Rusty Pixels, I'm sure they'll show me anything they're doing, just as they have tonight. You had a first look at something nobody's seen before. A lot of the other developers have assured me that when they finally get something to show, they will share it with me to share with you, give my honest thoughts and get hands-on with it. Like I say, I'm not technically minded. I've winged it tonight. I had a bit of a headache before I started the stream, and yet I've still managed to go through it and show you as much as I could. The guys have jumped on board, helped as much as they can for me to show you as much as I can, and you've got every reason from this to be hyped again for the system. It's going to be awesome when it comes. But anyway, oh yes, there is one more. I'll quickly show you before I sign off then, and it's one that r.a.m.s sent me. The guys have just reminded me. Sorry guys, it's been a long evening with so much to show. I do apologise for that, but the guys did show me one little effort they'd sent me. I'm going to quickly try and show you that now, if it loads. Okay, I've been that nervous about showing anything because of what's going on. Here we go. It's called Foreign Cabinet, and it's been sent to me by r.a.m.s the other day. Dave's worked on this as well. And in your games, I've tried to touch on as much as I could, mate. I think I've showed as much as I could. I mean, there's some games that weren't working, and now I can't show. I mean, Scramble, people have seen before. Again, that's from Mike and that. I'll just quickly bring it up to remind anyone. Scramble could have been done in the same way as these, but this was actually fully ported. So this was ported over by Mike and the guys, and this is pretty much arcade perfect, but this is a port rather than an emulation like what you've just seen there. And everybody loves a bit of Scramble, and this is a brilliant game. There's only so much of that I can show. I've showed a lot of it before. Go back to my other videos if you want to see more of that. I'll quickly jump back on and see if there's any more. Shout out the names of any. Oh, you want the separate games, Dave? Shout out the names of any that I haven't been able to haven't shown so far. That I've actually got access to. Nextapede should run, maybe. Try and run it in next mode. Oh, there we go. Nextapede's displaying. That's nice. That's Jonathan Colwell, isn't it? Yeah, that means getting involved with the keyboard controls. But yeah, this was a rudimentary Centipede version done for the Next. I'll see what else I can actually get to fire up. Like I say, I had a few issues with some of them, didn't I? Let's have a look. I'll see if I can get Angry Blouters to load quickly. I did show it on the preview. Yeah, same problem. It just displays as black. Can't get around that one. I had the same issue with the Hollow Earth hypothesis as well. That's why I showed him earlier on the thingy. Nighty Night. I haven't got access to that one, Matt, I'm afraid. I haven't been sent that one. Or have the guys just sent them to me? Have you guys sent me some while I've been on the stream, guys? Oh, yes. I see now. Oh, here we go. Nighty Night. Oh, yeah, okay. There you go, guys. We've got another new one to show you then. If we can quickly do this without cocking up me next. Dave Sapphire sent me... Sorry, I didn't see this, Dave. I've got about 1 million windows open on my desktop, you see. Because I've got chats going with Mike and everybody. So I'm going to quickly try and copy this file over. I've got one here from Dave, for definite. And I'm going to try and share this one with you quickly, guys, before I do sign off. So, anybody who's stuck around, well done you. And I'll copy this over. Copy this in. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I didn't see it. I'm seeing what else there is. I am trying to include it. There's a lot to include. You got to appreciate. I have been on now for going on 3 hours. I think I've been on. I'm doing my best. Try to show as much as I can to this day. At some point, I'll cover these again in a lot more detail. Tonight was really more of a kind of catch up for anybody who's missed the system to date or is new to the system or has been following it and just lost a bit of interest because they've not seen much new from like a real user, if you know what I mean. Obviously the anticipation of the system's been high. So let's see if I can quickly get this running. Please don't have lost it now. Oh, thank God for that. That's right, I've kind of set up the display, but I don't think I've set it up properly. That's why just when I restarted it, it didn't restart it and show it properly. I had to go back in the living room and do it again. I need to look at my setup properly. So, okay, let's give this a whirl then. Is this Nighty Night, is it? So this is Nighty Night, and this is from Dave. Obviously, I showed you Dave's work earlier with D-Next, and I know he's had involvement in several things on here. There's that much going on now. So let's give this a whirl then, see what this is like. So there you go. This is a port of an MSX game. Not many people that familiar with the MSX. So, oh, and we've got joystick control, which is good. Or joypad control. Oh, this is a lot. I thought this was just going to be like a quick demo. It's pretty far along. Oh, you got to be quick. This is like a horizontal cubit, I suppose, isn't it? Because in cubit you have to change the colours of the cubes, don't let you that you walk on. This is like hard is what this is. This you have to change the colour of the tiles on a horizontal plane. Oh, I'm running out of time. Come on, 2 more. Oh, I've got to get the key. Can I do it? No! Oh, I was at the end as well. Well, I'm trying that again. I ain't going out like that. This controls really well as well, I've got to say. I'm a big fan of games that control well. A lot of Spectrum games I always found had problems with not feeling arcadey enough, even with the arcade ports. Some of that had to do with frame rate and, the way it chugged along because you didn't have sprite layers and things like that. But it's more to do with feeling like you got direct response with whatever peripheral you're using to hand. Now, a lot of the games I've been demonstrating here, you do feel like you got a lot more attachment to the controller. And that's what I feel like I'm getting with this. And it's good because you've got to be fast, as I've just shown. I'll bug it up the first run bad. See if I can clear a couple of levels while I'm at it. So this was originally on the MSX then, was it, Dave? I'm not familiar with this. Never played. Was it on anything else at all? Or was it just on the MSX? Oh, that one's really hard to get to. You got to clear like 2 things just to get to them. And damn, you got to be fast as well. Skeletons are fast. I was a new game last year. Okay, so it's like it's one of like it's like a modern kind of homebrew version, is it, for MSX? But even still, it was still designed for a very different system. So much to cover. The next is a little pacey on the MSX. Yeah, I can imagine. You know what though? There are some great games on the MSX. It's only a system I've really visited in recent years when we started having it at the events and things like that. I've never touched on it before. I'd like to get one, but I'm trying to get like the best MSX I can. And I don't... Whoa, that one fires at you. And I don't really know what that is, if you know what I mean. So... Whoa, God, you gotta be damn fast for this one. Probably glad I died there, actually. Go all the way over there just to get to this bit. This is where it gets difficult now. Ah! Arseholes. I wonder if... I'm definitely going to run out of time. Yeah. Yeah, that's really hard. But yeah, I like it, Dave, yeah. I think that's something else a lot of people will enjoy as well. When they get a chance to play that. Got a cool little soundtrack as well. I like that. I think the last thing was that I've actually got here is r.a.m.s has sent me something. I haven't even fired this up yet, so I don't know if it works. Called Foreign Cabinet. Now this looks very much like Spitting Image. If anybody remembers Spitting Image, it looks a lot like that anyway. but with more modern characters. Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Nicola Pugface, what's her name? Who does Scotland? Sturgeon, yeah, that's it. Thanks, Mrs. Lords of Midnight. Have I got Lords? Have you sent me Lords of Midnight, mate? I ain't got Lords of Midnight, mate. That's the one I haven't got. Unless there's a demo already in the OS. I haven't been sent that one. Oh, it's in the... Okay, right. I'll check in just a sec then. So... Let's have a look at this then. Oh, this isn't what I expect. Okay, so we've got a kind of overhead maze crawler thing. This isn't what I expected it to be. However, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how early this is in here we go. Oh, it's yeah, puzzle shifter. I get you. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll be totally honest. Yeah, I'm kind of lost, guys. I'm sorry. I mean, obviously it's a puzzle shifter here. You got to kind of piece together the picture that's in the corner. Ah, there we go. Oh, that's it. I'm getting to grips with the controls now. Okay. Oh, so you can only shuffle them. I get it now. Yeah, I get it. But you know, I'm going to be honest now. I absolutely suck at these games. I know the type of game it is now, but I absolutely suck at them. I could never do these. You know, I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil games, right? And I'll be honest, the Resident Evil games, right? There's loads of these type of puzzles on it, and I suck at all of them. I never managed to do them first time. I know the picture at the top side gives you a clue as to where they've got to be. So I'll bugger that off. There, that can go in the right place. When I saw the spitting image characters, I had in my mind, I don't know why, I had in my mind that it was going to be like the spitting image fighting game you used to get for the ST and the Amiga. And if anyone remembers that. But yeah, I thought it was going to be that. Okay, so we'll do the same again there. Well, at least you can have some nice detailed pictures on the next, which is good. I think I've got that wrong, but... yeah, I need a few more to that. Not sure what these things do. So I was always finger on the red button, I'll get it. That's supposed to be there, so... oh, bugger. Yeah, I suck at these things. I could be all here all day trying to do this, but yeah, I get the idea, guys. I do get the idea. So yeah, okay. So interesting proof of concept there. Yeah, I'll get in there. Sorry, Lampros. Yeah, I'm following the chat there. No, I totally get it now. I had in my mind it was something else. Sorry, I apologise for that. But guys, you see what I mean, guys? There's so much variety here in what's being shown. There's so much going on And there's going to be even more to see pretty soon, you know what I mean? So it's kind of meant to be there. Why is that bouncing off that? Oh. Tricky. That's meant to be there, that's meant to be there. That's meant to be down one. That's meant to be there. So I'm getting there, but... Oh man, I could lose my head over this. Lampros, man, you're killing me. Oh, splitting images. Okay, yeah, I get it. Yes, I get you. I'll get you. Now it's cool, man. There's definitely a good proof of concept there. If I had more time to sit with it, but man, I'm so bad at them games. So bad at those games. So there you go, guys. That's 2 more games I've just showed you that nobody's seen head nor tail of till this point. So there you go. Lords of Midnight. Right, I'll check the Lords of Midnight one, mate. Let's have a look. Let's have a look in my YamYam. Oh, that's why I can't view the YamYam one because I'm on it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm kind of viewing that one at the moment. Sorry about that, Matt. I'll tell you what I'll do. I am going to be doing some more streams. I'm probably going to do another kind of brush up stream right before the Nexus actually comes out. This was like my all-encompassing, so I've shown pretty much as I can for tonight. I think I'm starting to bore the hell out of people now. I've been on for 3 hours, so I've literally shown as much as was physically possible tonight. But I'm gonna hoover up these ones that I haven't shown in a ton of detail, and I will definitely give those around coverage. Like I say, I've covered it for people who haven't seen the system, who don't. Anyway, guys, I apologise it's gone quiet again. It's just the camera on my phone. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. This weekend I'm off on my jollies. We're doing our nationwide UK arcade tour. So me and some of the guys, we've got Barry from the Retro Shed, Aaron will be joining us, the YamYam will be joining me for the next one that we're doing. We're going to be touring all the UK arcades and giving our reviews of those. So you'll be seeing a bit more of that on here, and we'll be uploading those to YouTube. What I've done in terms of streams for the last couple of months, they're all going to be uploaded now in due course to a new YouTube channel, so it won't just be Facebook you're going to see them on here. Pretty soon I'll be updating the way I do the streams to make them a little better. I'll be setting up a new camera and everything for it. Now I've got my house decorated, I can do something a bit more permanent on the rigging, and I can do something that looks a little bit better at least. I'm going to be going over to Retro Shed to be doing more streams with them, so you'll see more of those on here, and those will be a lot more stable. If you do look at my stream even from their place, it's the way that Facebook streams. You do get a breakdown in quality every so often, it can't really be helped. It's the way that Facebook handles the streams, unfortunately. We're not going to start messing around with Twitch and things like that. That means moving everybody over to a new platform. You're already on Facebook, you're already there of an evening. I just wanted to watch it where you're going to see it, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've covered everything I can for the evening, guys, and I'll be back really soon. And anything you have sent me that I've missed, I will do my best to get it covered. I'll do another stream, another follow-up stream, as soon as I hear from the guys that I know the next are being shipped out, I'm going to have to do a stream, and I'm going to be continuing there with the work on Revival Survival, so I'll have a big update to show on that one soon. And anything I've missed, like I say, I've been informed that I've got a Lords of Midnight in the inbox. I'll cover that in another stream because I know a lot of people are waiting on that. And I will cover in more detail some of the files I've been sent here. Probably a couple on this, but today was a hell of a rush, and I'm amazed I've managed to cram as much into 3 hours as I have. Hopefully, if you've not been clued up on the next until now, and you've just started to get into it all, I've covered a lot for you about what the system is about, and now you can stick on, follow the Spectrum Next Facebook page and the Facebook group, follow the YamYam channel because I do a lot of streams on the Next. Definitely follow the website and everything, follow all the developers on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter because there's lots going on with the system, and as I've showed you when I've showed you my PC, they're uploading videos and little snippets here and there as well. So anything I do now, as soon as I have information on it, I'll do a stream and I'll show you it live anyway. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed what you've seen tonight. Watch it back, ask any questions. If you're watching this after the live stream, drop any questions in there. I'll forward any questions you've got to developers. I'll try and answer anything I can, but I hope you've enjoyed it for the most part anyway, guys, and catch you soon. Oh yeah, Revival, again, a couple of weeks time we've got Revival, the first Revival of the year, doing 2 this year. The next developers are all going to be there, we're going to have the next there. Hopefully have the first appearance of the production next, and you're going to see a lot of these games and get to play them hands-on first of all there, and apparently they're going to have some more exclusives to see right then and there, so get yourselves on to Revival. It's free for members and £2 for everybody else. No excuse not to come. It's going to be a top weekend, loads of competitions going on, loads to buy, loads to see, loads to game on. So get yourself there if you've